What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another very special Pokemon Rants. We often think of trailblazers as the person going down the path not yet traveled, ultimately to reach that destination of new and unseen heights. But what does it mean when that same person is also reborn many times over during the process, while still holding on to what was valuable from the past lessons learned? This, my friends, is where the edge of life is lived and fulfillment can be found. From Dubai to Paris and now to Washington, John has traversed the world, riding that edge and truly living his best life, pioneering the Pokemon podcasting space while jumping ahead of the curve on trophy cards, and now impacting the intersection of Pokemon and social media. John truly has been a reborn trailblazer time and time again. We will dive behind the mic with one of the best, the one, the only, John, aka Radar. John, welcome to Pokemon Wonder.
Thank you. Wow, that feels good. I should have done intros like that for my podcast. That was awesome.
Welcome, man. I said it before. We'll say it a couple times today. I always do. I appreciate you donating time to all of us. It's something we never get back, and deeply grateful.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. How's my volume? I know I kind of hopped on a little late. We just started chatting, but volume good for everybody out there?
Sounds good from my end.
Cool.
Sound off in the chat, guys, if it doesn't look too good, but I think it looks good on my side.
I'm sure you got the little bars that can show everything.
Yeah.
So
all is good. All is good. John, I always do the research. We look behind the scenes, and one of the things I know is you're born in '93, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
That puts you back, around 6 or so in '99. And I know your brothers. You had two older brothers, and your oldest was into like Magic the Gathering and World of Warcraft and some other things. So that's kind of what got you in. But what was those first experiences? I want to go just a little bit deeper and touch on that origin back to Pokemon. What was that maybe first pack, that first experience? Your brother invited you in his room and showed you his binder, and your eyes lit up.
Yeah, it definitely falls back to the video game, I think, with most people, because that was the first thing. I don't remember, the exact beginning. I know that there was a debate for myself on whether to get blue or red, because oldest brother did red, and then the older brother did blue. So I know I didn't end up with yellow, because I got the game. Oh, my video cut out. I got the game before yellow came out, so I think I ended up with red. And then there were just moments where I'll try to fix the video in a little bit. There were moments where I remember of just playing a video game on road trips with my cousins, like chasing legendaries. There were moments of battling 1v1, like I battled when we were cheating to get the level 1000 Pokemon with the missing numbers. So there were a lot of moments with the video game, oddly in the car during road trips, that was just like
the best time.
The best. And the trading card game, again, don't remember a specific beginning, but I remember the moment where both of my brothers had a Charizard. I did not. And we were at the local mall, bought packs from, I think it was like the Disney store, or maybe there used to be like a Looney Tunes, or maybe was it like a Looney Tunes store? I think it was a Looney Tunes store. And my brother pulled a second Charizard, and I threw a fit, cried, and my dad forced him to trade me the Charizard, and I gave him a Haunter.
Terrible trade.
Terrible trade. I repaid the favor 25 years later, giving him a Charizard. Said sorry. I don't think it meant as much. No, but that was the card moment.
Okay. That was actually kind of nice. But I'm sure your brother was furious when your dad made him trade that card. Furious. I know I would have been.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And while you're taking a look at the video real quick, we'll just do a quick shout out here. Appreciate everybody showing up. We got Chef in the house. Gengar's Den. There we go. Got your back. Okay. Good to see you guys. FMO's in here. Josh, we got a lot of love in here for you, John. Everybody misses you. glad to have you back, at least in this
Yeah.
moment. Hopefully more and more to come.
Yeah, good to see everybody in here. It's awesome.
Chester Beats.
My video might go in and out. I figured out how to fix it, but I'll be able
Okay.
to fix it every time it goes out. So, all right. Yeah,
No worries. No
it's
worries.
been a while, so my equipment wasn't set up perfectly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate the love.
Yeah, man. Yeah, lots of people here looking to see more of you. Yeah. Hopefully, we can start it here today. Well, John, it's good to kind of hear that little bit of a tidbit. I know you played again with your brothers, and you guys traded, and you went on for quite some time. And then was it just the sports that got you out? Because I know I think your middle brother was a jock, so he kind of
Yeah.
got you into sports a little bit and basketball and
Yeah, they both played sports. I chalk it up as like oldest was 20% jock, 80% nerd, and 80% 20
okay,
for the other. And then I was like a 50-50. Um, yeah, it was, I say it's sports, you say it's wanting to be cool, whatever, or, wanting to get girls. That's kind of the classic why I got out of
yeah,
Pokemon. But it was just kind of I think for all of us, I mean, your friend group got out of it. There were friend groups that stayed in it. But it was mostly influenced by my friends around me, right? And we went and started playing basketball and
right.
going outside instead of playing Pokemon. We were playing 2K, we were playing Halo, we were playing whatever. So it was just a natural evolvement out of Pokemon, and I never got into Yu-Gi-Oh. Magic was a very short snippet, but it was
Okay.
mostly just, yeah, I would say sports and the friend group just got out of it. So we were doing other things, being more adventurous, going outside.
Right. Getting some sunlight, which isn't always a bad thing.
Right.
And we always look at this too, John. When we look at the podcast and we look at the guests, we also want to sprinkle in perhaps the backstory of your education. I know you got your first job was in robotic arms, but or at least the sales of those. But what was your actual degree in, and how did you kind of lead into selling robotic arms?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm trying to stop myself from asking questions and being the host. Um, so, yeah, I went to
Relax this
Michigan.
time.
I went to
Yeah,
Michigan State University. Yeah, honestly, I can just chill. This is great.
yeah.
It's fun to be on the other side. I went to Michigan State University, Spartan Dogs, marketing
Okay.
background or marketing bachelor's, and I actually was a part of like the first entrepreneurship minor. It wasn't a minor. We
Mm,
started it as like a specialization, and the year after it became a minor, which sucks because I guess people don't look into it, but as far as
no.
all that, so basically an entrepreneurship minor that was like this group of 20 of us that started it, and a couple professors, so that was pretty cool.
That's cool.
And what it was an odd progression for me for my career, obviously, which I'm sure we'll get a lot more into. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I Michigan State's a big school. It's Big Ten, very popular, a lot of kids, a lot of
Yeah.
successful kids, and coming out of it, people had crazy internships. JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, like people had these incredible opportunities, and I had nothing. I didn't really put in the effort to go get one of those, or had the connections to go get one of those.
Mm,
I was too busy. I was playing basketball, and I just didn't really have the foresight to put in a lot of effort to
mm.
get a sweet internship. I just wasn't thinking ahead. So I didn't really have that opportunity coming out, and it was very stressful. But I was selling a lot of stuff on eBay, mostly like vintage clothing that I was
Really?
me and my friends would go thrift shopping to buy clothes for specific parties, right? Like theme parties in
Yep.
college are
Yep.
such a big thing. So we'd go buy whatever random clothes, and then I started piling up just dirty old cool
Stuff you
sweatshirts.
didn't want, right?
Yeah. So I started reselling them and making good money, enough to pay for my drinks on the weekend or whatever it was. And I said my books, but it wasn't my books. Sorry, Dad. Uh, but
Whoops.
uh, it that turned into just like a fairly big thing where my dad was just like talking about it with his friends. that I was selling stuff on eBay, and one of his buddies, one of his best friends, ended up giving me a bunch of pocket watches to sell. My dad does coins, his friend does
Okay.
coins and like other odd stuff, and he just stumbled upon like hundreds of pocket watches, and he was selling it for scrap, like getting $10-15 a pocket watch. And these are from 1890, 1910, like really old pocket watches. Really cool stuff that I was like, I can make you a
Probably
lot
a lot
more
more.
than that, and then also take a 50% cut for myself. So he was
That's right.
like, yeah, if you can make me more than $15, take half of the profit or half of the sale, and let's do business together. So he gave
That
me
sounds great deal.
a bunch of pocket watches, and I sold all of them, probably like $100 a piece. So he got $50,
Wow.
he was happy. I got $50, I was happy. And again, as I got out of college, having no opportunities, my first job, I was like, I got to get a job. And keep in mind, this is when I got like sick for the first time. So I was bedridden, but
A lot
I
of
was
firsts.
I was working at Ralph Lauren at the mall,
Yep.
and it didn't pay well, hated it. That guy that I sold the pocket watches for reached out to me. He was like, "Hey, you can sell stuff. Do you want to be a sales guy?" So he called me in, and I met with, he got a tour of the company or whatever, and met all the Japanese guys that ran the company, and because it was a Japanese manufacturer, and got a sales job. So I was just an inside sales rep, learning the company, learning, helping out all the sales guys with following up on emails, doing all the tedious grunt work, and that kind of just led to bigger roles throughout a couple of years there, selling robotic arms. So that's kind of how my career got started. It was thanks to selling pocket watches, honestly.
From vintage clothes to pocket watches to robotic arms. Right?
Yeah.
Thank you, eBay.
Yeah, shout out to eBay, which I am interviewing at, by the way. So if eBay's watching for whatever reason, thank you.
There you go. Yeah, much appreciated. Deep roots here. Deep roots.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man. I didn't know that backstory. I was wondering how you got into it. I figured it was maybe some sponsorship out of school or some program, but yeah, pocket watches. Never would have guessed.
Yeah, it's so weird. And I learned, it's still stuck in my brain somewhere, all the different things about pocket watches.
So I'm sure you had to do some research to know what to price it. You didn't run it all on auction.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as Pokemon. There's like little groups of people that know what they're doing. There's different websites that you can search all the serial numbers and figure out when was made where, and all the different jewels and timing and manufacturing dates, like numbers. It has like all the production numbers. It's really cool. And yeah, I ended up selling it most to like one guy in California who was just like buying it all from me, which was great. But
Easy money.
Yeah.
Well, John, we run it back in this case to Pokemon because you've been obviously a collector for some time. You got back in, and I think when you got in, you were going in to recollect base, jungle, and fossil originally. Yeah,
Evolutions is what like sparked it again. And then I started from the beginning. So yeah, base through gym challenge.
Okay. Did you ever finish those before you started to? Because I know we get into the points where okay.
No, I did base real quick because I had my oldest brother completed a base set, and I of course went into it and sold the Charizard, sold some of the stuff because I was being greedy, and I was like, I should probably fix this. So I finished that setup, still have it, and then I had the overconfidence to say, hey, why don't I just like complete a set by opening packs? So
this is a great idea.
Yeah, so I bought a bunch of base packs, junk, like everything, and was just ripping through it. And I was chasing non-hollow rares. It was so stupid, but so much fun.
It was fun, right? Yeah.
So much fun. So thankfully packs were like $15-20. Still crazy amount of money, but especially back then. But yeah, I was just ripping through packs trying to complete those sets, and I don't think I completed any of them.
Yeah, I watched some of your early openings too, and I think it was at one point you were opening a first ed base pack, if I'm not mistaken. maybe it was Team Rocket, I forget. But you basically got nothing out of it as a trainer. You're like,
Yeah.
no. You threw it down and you cut the
Dude,
video off real quick.
Yeah, I bought a first ed base pack from my local store for $400. And this was really early on getting back into collecting Pokemon. And dude, I weighed it and I was like, this could be heavy. And I'll tell you, I didn't sleep for 2 weeks just thinking about what was in that pack. I got to the point where I was like sweaty and shaky. I was like, I can't live without opening this pack. I was like going through some like weird withdrawals. And I was like, all right,
hilarious.
I'm opening this pack. I called my brothers up. I'm like, guys, I'm opening up this pack. Come over. So I got my brothers together to open this thing. I had like a piece of paper towel on a kitchen table. Yeah. And I pulled a Pokemon breeder, which
perfect.
was very disappointing.
Money well spent.
But
problem solved.
I was able to sleep after that. So
at least without the nightmares of losing $1,500. So you did though, but you got into it, recollected a little bit. You loved opening packs, but then at some point you even moved into sealed.
Yeah.
But you end up and I'm jumping around, so please feel free to fill in some gaps. But you had to move some of the sealed so that you could do some traditional investments and pay off some debts and jump in, whatever it may be 401ks or Roths. What am I missing there?
I'm a very inconsistent person. I changed my mind quite a bit. I got the way that I was like supporting this addiction was actually a lot through like opening and selling singles of Magic, buying lots on eBay of whatever, and I was selling off a lot of stuff just to like support the opening addiction. I got to the point where I finally was like, you know what, I've opened enough. This isn't doing it for me anymore. It doesn't feel the same. It's just like I could be making money off of this instead of wasting it. So, and I also have a little bit of a hoarder mindset where I like to have a lot of things. So having a lot of packs or whatever just feels good.
Feel better.
But yeah, there was a moment where I shifted the mindset to, all right, this is a business. This is an investment. This is, something that I am spending too much money on, but also for some reason I'm not really losing money. So,
how does that work?
I looked at sealed as like, I started to compare everything to traditional investments. I looked at sealed as like the mutual funds of Pokemon. You could open it, you can grade the packs, you can just sit on it. Like there's a lot you can do with a sealed box. So I just looked at that as like the mutual fund and was considering that an investment. And I did well with that. I bought a ton of boxes. I had like 50 WotC boxes at one point, and I was tons of packs too. And I got to the point where things spiked a little bit. I mean, nowhere near what COVID was, but things spiked, and there was a lot of shady stuff going on. People were buying stuff from me and claiming it was resealed, and it was just a hassle to fight. So
what year was this? Like
this
18, 19?
This is 2018, 2019, or it was 2019. Yeah. Cause 2019, I sold through like the majority of it. And yeah, I was just like, I was over it. I was literally, it was an emotional decision where it was too stressful. So I said, you know what, I'm going to move out of this, get into graded cards, because it is what it is. There's the grading companies. You don't have to worry about any shady activity, which I mean, you still do, but not as much as sealed product. Yeah. So I sold it all. And in turn, before I reinvested it, I was like, I'm going to pay off my car. I'm going to pay off my student loans. I'm going to set aside an emergency fund, which I never had before. I was like, I'm going to be an adult. I'm going to do the things that I need to do. And this is all with like COVID is just about to happen. The world's falling apart. There's a
perfect time though.
Yeah. Complete uncertainty. The stock market went down 50%. It was a scary time. I had nothing to my name other than Pokemon cards and a very low paying job. So I was like, you know what? I need to set myself up here just in case. And I mean, I can look back and say I regret it because things went up like crazy, but it put me in a state of just like calmness, no stress. I
Right.
set myself up. No, yeah. So I sold a lot of it, paid off all those debts, zero debt,
Mm.
and then started back up, but into graded cards.
It's amazing what having the metaphorical weight of debt can do
Yeah.
to your mind, and just taking that off the table, knowing that, hey, I'm covered and have a little bit of a safety net, and just being able to still go to the same job that you thought yesterday was perhaps too low, but like, okay, I can make this work.
Yeah.
And it just makes so many things, I think, a little bit more simple when you
Yeah.
take off that weight. Yeah.
It's huge. This is one thing that, I mean, Dan, Catch 'em All Collectibles, me and him are kind of on the same wavelength with this.
Yeah.
I mean, 99% of my friends are like, no, I have a 2% mortgage. I have 3% this. I don't care about optimizing a couple percent of my money. Like the stress outweighs it so heavily. So
Yeah.
I just personally can't handle all that stress, and I'd rather have zero debt. I'd rather have a safety net, and I'll take it a little bit slower.
Right. Does that take us into trophy cards then?
Yeah. So again, very extremes here. Hey, let's be safe and
right off the cliff there. But
yeah, exactly. Let's be logical. Let's be safe. Let's
and $100,000 gone.
Yeah. Okay. Instead, let's send 40 grand to Japan, and hopefully a card shows up at my door. This is kind of the story of my life. Is just like a bouncing back over. It's a boomerang of extremes. So yeah,
again, that's where life is lived, my friend.
Yeah. It's worked out. I'm happy. My life is in a place I never thought it would be. So thank you, Pokemon. But yeah, it quickly went to trophy cards. So I spiked up a friendship with Swolepoke, with Jeremy, who had been in Pokemon a little bit longer than I have, and early on was in, looking at trophy cards and getting involved in trophy cards. So he was a big influence on me making that shift from English set cards, whatever sealed product to the Japanese side. And of course, E4 was a massive influence. S.M. Pratt and Charlie and some of these other guys DJ Gigabyte, some of these guys who've been collecting trophy cards, part of the trophy card space for a while. There was like this opportunity I saw of a lot of interest going up, but people didn't have the money at the time to buy. They also didn't have the risk tolerance to buy from Japan. So I was like, you know what, let's go for this. Let's jump on it and see what happens. And I bought a Trophy Kangaskhan. That was the first one, which then just spiraled into a bunch more.
And was this sequentially in the right order? Was it selling off the sealed? Then you jumped shortly thereafter, and as COVID started to ramp up, you were buying trophies then?
Yeah, it happened. Okay. Yeah, it happened pretty much right away. I sold off the sealed, paid off the debts. I sold off that first edition base set Charizard that I opened, and bought a Trophy Kangaskhan for a PSA 7 for $17,000. And then flipped it in like a month or two for 30, something like that.
Yeah, sounds about right. Because you also went to Japan. Perhaps that was last year, though, and you got one. You paid, I forget what it was, but it was something you got. What was that?
I got the Articuno last year before Worlds. Yeah,
that's what it was.
Sold that one as well to pay for the down payment for the house. But yeah, the Kangaskhan started the trophy era, I guess. Yeah. Which lasted maybe 6 to 8 months of like being really good business. Then got into everything. I think I bought and sold 3 or 4 Kangaskhan's, a couple Gold Star Umbreons and Espeons, the Pikachu, a whole bunch of other stuff.
Where does that take you into your collection today? Because I know that we're skipping a few things here, and one of those is you tried to run your own kind of Pokemon business in a sense. which then force you to reprioritize your collection. Maybe speak to that, and then we'll go into where you are.
Yeah, I talked about that a lot as I was like doing content and making stuff and running the business, where, you know, depending on, again, the situation I was in, whether I had a 9-to-5 or not, the way that I looked at my Pokemon, it was either inventory or investment.
Right.
There's always a small piece that's like the PC. Right. I've got like a binder with first edition base that I'll just probably keep forever. I don't, you know, at this point, I don't care. There's a couple things that I don't think I would ever sell unless, you know, I really needed to. So the collection, just like, I never really set goals. I just wanted to get a lot. I wanted to get cool things, and I just bought and bought and bought. You know, I turned it into a business that, you know, mainly ran through eBay, but a lot of private sales as well through Instagram. I just bought a ton of stuff. I mean, endless collections from Japan. I went through every local store that I could when I was traveling and would buy them out of whatever I could. And I just stack stuff up. Like, my storage unit in Michigan is filled to the brim still to this day of cards to be graded. And I mean, I finally have gone through some of it and started grading a lot of it, so I can sell it. But
I know at one point you said you had like 10,000 cards waiting to be graded, just sitting there.
Yeah, because it was tough, right? Like my business is set up in Michigan, so whenever I buy something to get exempt from the sales tax, I have to ship it to where my business is.
Right.
And I was living in Jersey. I was living in Texas. I was living in LA.
So it all just went to storage.
It just all went to storage, which I'm very thankful for. You know, like,
it worked out.
Yeah, I bought and forgot about it technically, but it was frustrating because with all that moving around, my business just like died. I couldn't run it. I had nothing on me. I was moving too much. I was doing other things. But now, I guess it's in process of getting back up and running. So, so yeah, it's the mindset changed frequently. It was inventory, collection, investment, just like, again, it bounced around a lot depending on really where my financial status or whatever was at the time.
Yeah. It tends to sway. I can speak to it as well, but yeah, when it goes from business to this is how I make a living, inventory changes real quick.
Yeah.
PC goes up. I don't need these. I don't need these. I'll sell this.
Yeah. No, it's. I mean, there's like the Articuno was one that was like, oh, this is special. I bought it in Japan. I bought it at Worlds in Japan. It was a big buy, and then, you know, I got an offer that was, all right, this will set me up for a down payment for a house, which I have done many times before, but this time I actually did it. So,
which is just a quick comment here. You know, we have SDC in the house. Good to see SDC. You know, he's asking if you're in Seattle, but no, you moved to Washington, right? So that's where you purchased your home.
Yes, just outside of Seattle. So I am there now. It's great. I love the weather. It's beautiful.
It's nice, right? Not raining all the time.
You know, it's not like it downpours. It's just like wet
showers.
I don't know. You know, it's okay. You just buy a raincoat, you're fine. So I don't mind it at all. I mean, I'm from Michigan, so it's a lot more extreme there during the winters. Even more extreme during the summer. So it's pretty mild here year round, I'd say.
Okay.
Right now it's gorgeous. I mean, the mountains and everything. It's beautiful.
Little hot here in North Carolina, but otherwise,
I bet.
It's humid. I was out there. We were doing a cookout for the neighborhood yesterday, and I was setting up in the backyard, and we had like a little pop-up tent and the chairs and the tables, and I was moving the grill. I came inside, and my son said, "Were you in the pool?" I said, "No." No, I was not in the pool, because he thought I left him here at the house when I went to the pool. I said, "No, son, I did not go to the pool. I'm in the backyard working. Why don't you come help me out?" I said, "Oh, no, I'm good, Dad. Yeah, I'm sure."
Have you ditched him before for the pool? Or
no, never, not once. I don't know, but he always, assumes the worst. He assumes the worst. So, Dad, did you open any Pokemon without me? No, I didn't open Pokemon without you.
He's got severe FOMO.
That's right. Don't know where that comes from. Hey, John, this sets us up. But I do, before we transition, I'm curious now, you're back to a 9 to 5, or, give or take. But does that allow you to collect again? Are you back into some stuff you enjoy?
Yeah, very much a 9 to 5. I have to be in the office 5 days a week. It is
Okay.
unnecessary. Honestly, like the job that I have, it's unnecessary. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm blessed where it's flexible. Like it's not that bad at all. But yeah, it's right now my goal was to buy a house this year. So I've been selling a lot. I sold all my trophies, my snaps. I've sold a ton of my collection. I still have a lot left. Most of it is graded Japanese vintage WotC, and then a lot of the modern sets because I buy from my distributor every couple of months. Right. But yeah, right. I'm not really buying much. I still like this goal of buying this house. I want it paid off. Like I want to actually buy out this house with Pokemon eventually, and if that takes me selling everything that I own to do so, I will do that. I mean, it's expensive out here. Rates are high. So
don't want to pay that mortgage rate. Yeah.
I don't want to pay that mortgage rate. And I plan on keeping a 9 to 5 for a while. And if I get a house paid off, I can take all that money and start recollecting. Like the stuff that I have outside of a few things, I can get again. It's just a matter of time and doing, investing correctly. So, outside of the few items that I don't think I could get back, like I would sell everything. It's okay. I'll get back into it if I need to.
You mentioned the binder of the base set. Is there any maybe other 1 or 2 pieces that you really just you cling on to that are special to you, a gift, something like that?
I got gifted. It's right here actually. I got gifted this. This is
oh, that's super cool.
Yeah, so every year, I don't know how many years back, but Pokemon does a golf tournament for their employees, like the executives and stuff.
I remember you showing this before. Yeah.
Yeah, and being in Washington, I've been able to meet quite a few Pokemon WotC, ex Pokemon people, and help them with stuff. Do some deals with them. I guess consult with them on what to do with their stuff when they're done, when they retire. And this was a gift from one of them. And I also got a golf club too.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is cool. It's a tailor-made 60 degree. It's got the
Pokemon. That's cool.
It's got a master ball.
That's awesome.
And then you'll come with 2023. Like that I will never get rid of. That's awesome. And there's some other things, like there's some, I don't know, I've got like Dragon Ball Z anime cells. I love those. I buy and sell those, but I got a few. What else? Oh, I got my Pablo Sanchez rookie card.
Yeah, gotta hold on to that one.
Yeah, but like that gift, that the golf stuff here is really awesome. Like I'll keep that forever.
Yeah, those are really cool, like memorable pieces. And those little things for me are what really capture moments in history. So you're not going to go to your local big box retailer and pick this kind of stuff up. It's just those really cool things like that are just, I think, cemented in history to kind of hold that moment, not just for you, but also for the hobby as a whole. Yeah, it's beautiful. STC wants to know what your top pick was in 2024. What did you pick up?
The
best things. Yeah.
What have I bought this year? I bought a fossil uncut sheet from a WotC employee. Probably that.
Is that the one behind you on the wall?
No, that's the one behind me is that's one of the Koro posters that has like the checklist. But I got an uncut fossil sheet. I believe it's the what's the what's the company that handed them all out? KB Toys. I think it's KB Toys Chic, but they cut off the bottom.
Okay. Oh,
And it has the little Haunter hollow smudge error on one of the
oh
Haunters.
yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, probably that. I think that's
pretty
really cool. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
We got Retro in the house. He's good to see you, Retro. He's wondering if you've been checking out that anime production art at all.
Yeah, I've got a few hanging on my wall up here. I don't want to take them off, but mostly Dragon Ball Z. I have one Pokemon one.
Nice.
That was a gift, but yeah, I've got a few Dragon Ball Z ones. Nothing crazy. All the really, really cool, epic moments that you remember as a kid or even now. I was watching Dragon Ball Z yesterday, looking at all the moments of like, oh, I wish I had that. Those are like nowhere to be found. They're in private collections. They're destroyed. Like they're hard to find and very, very expensive now. But yeah, I love that the anime production and really just Dragon Ball Z. Naruto's kind of cool, but they never did like the colored, the hand painted part of it. They just did the sketches. So
stencil kind of.
Yeah. I don't know all the names. It's like Genga, Duga, whatever they are. But yeah, Dragon Ball Z, the ultimate, like that's my favorite thing ever. So being able to look at these is pretty cool. Sorry. Well, I could show you, but
that's it. Sure. Yeah, we can do one. Good to see you, Shug. Thanks for stopping in, man. Oh, that's nice. That's super cool. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, those are cool, man. Do you pick those up privately, or you find them on eBay and just snagged them up?
No, so these one actually I bought in Japan during Worlds. When I went to Worlds, I went nuts. I bought so much stuff, and there is a store in Nakano. I think it was Nakano at one of the like Mandarake malls. There's a dude in the corner with a anime cell store. He's pretty much bought out of Dragon Ball Z at this point, but I bought them directly from him. And nice. I think he's one of the more like well-known, long-standing, legitimate guys. So I had I don't know anything about art. I don't know anything about this stuff, like what's real, what's not. So buying from him. This
could be like photocopied.
Yeah, honestly, like, he could be at the point where he's like, you know what, I've got a big enough name. I can screw over foreigners and sell them fake stuff. But no, he's a very well-respected guy, I think. And all the stuff is legit. So I'm just happy to own a few pieces.
Yeah. Keep your eyes open and never know what else you might find.
Yeah, I gotta look more. I've been lazy these days. I miss like the day, like obviously during COVID, I was super into it as everyone else was. But when I was doing it full time, the buying, the selling, everything. I mean, I was looking at Yahoo auctions every day.
Every day, yeah.
There's a time where I was streaming it, right? I was on Twitch streaming,
exactly,
buying stuff, and like, yeah, you would find really cool things and find some deals. But I look at it like once a week, maybe now. Which
it's funny how the job changes things.
Yeah, I miss it.
We'll get into that. Actually, it's a perfect little segue. So we know that you're in robotic arms. That was your first real job. Then you did your own, in between that and what you're doing now, you ran your own Pokemon business for quite a while, which we talked about a little bit. You were offered a job at Whatnot, but you did not take it, right?
Yeah, that's a complicated relationship. Okay. Although, Whatnot was kind of, it's been great, but awful at the same time. Because
you had ownership, partial, like a small sliver of it.
I've got such a tiny bit of stock. It's meaningless, but if they ever go public or whatever, maybe I'll get something out of it. No, it's funny. When I first got approached by them and asked to do stuff, I asked for like 2% of the company, and they were like, "No, that's like $10 million." I was like, "Oh, I didn't realize you guys were that big. Sorry."
1.5.
Yeah. So, that was really early on. Like when I quit my job to do this full time, things just spiraled into, or I guess snowballed. Spiraled, kind of a negative term. It snowballed into just opportunity after opportunity. You know, I've been unlucky in a lot of places in my life with like health and stuff, but when it comes to relationships and just like opportunities, I feel like I'm just the luckiest person there
Richest man in the
is.
world. Yeah.
Like things just happen. Like I went golfing the other day on July 4th,
Okay.
and I randomly played with like the SVP of the Seattle Mariners. Like I was like, what? So like it just think
That's so cool.
I go to all my bosses at my jobs. I'm like, just let me do what I do and things will happen. Trust me. And they're like, no, I
Right.
can't trust you. But they just do. It's so weird. It's so funny. But yeah, so I quit my job and literally the next day I'm on the phone with Logic. And then a week after that, I'm talking to Gary King Pokemon, who's putting on a charity event with Steve Aoki. And I'm just like, can I come? So he's like, yeah, sure, come. So I go and meet Steve Aoki and his whole team and end up doing a lot of stuff with him. And, you know, you can say good or bad things about these guys getting into the hobby, but great experience. Like awesome experiences. So yeah, and like as soon as I quit my job, just snowballed into all these different things. And that led to Whatnot, where nobody knew who they were. They had started, I think, in 2019 doing Funko Pops.
Right.
And I remember being on E4. You know, I used to stream the PWCC stuff when it was on eBay. And we'd have like the whole, like 60, 70 people in chat just like watching. All from like the E4 Discord. And I remember SM Pratt brought up Whatnot and was asking about it. And I looked at my emails and I had an email. And we started talking about it, like, what is this? And we had no idea what it was. And it seemed super shady. It was sketchy. It was like this. Why would anybody want to do this? And then I saw Super Duper Danny do a sponsored ad or something with them. I was like, oh, they're legit. I trust Super Duper Danny. They know what's going on. And I responded to the Whatnot email, and it led to a pretty big relationship where, I mean, I think anybody could have had that opportunity. I was just maybe the first one to hop on it. Where I started as a influencer and seller for them. So for a couple months, they were paying me and paying for my inventory to sell on Whatnot, which I think was a huge catalyst in getting Pokemon started for them. So, you know, my ego started to grow, but that led to a consulting gig where I was helping them with some special projects, you know, doing some deals together. I was flying in and out of LA, meeting with their founders. Really great experience, like learning, seeing a business that is taking in that much VC money and seeing how they grew and picking the brain of the founder and how he was thinking about starting this business and growing and learning and teaching. And it was a really, really great learning experience.
Exposure.
Yeah. And ultimately, after the consulting thing, you know, we talked about a full-time job. And, you know, the way I look at this, and I plan on having one of them on my podcast in the future and talking about this in more detail, like a therapy session. But like, it was an amazing opportunity. You know, the position they put me in for success was great. But, you know, they went ahead and offered me kind of a pretty bland job. And I was like, you know, I've done a lot for you guys. I know my corporate background isn't strong, but you know, I did all this. You've seen what I'm capable of. You see the potential, and they just offered me a normal job. So I was really upset by that. I mean, again, it was a great opportunity. If I took it, would things progress faster? Maybe. But at the time, you know, I was making a lot of money selling Pokemon, and at the time, it didn't make sense for me to do. So
kind of felt like a little bit of a slap in the face.
Yeah. So I burned the bridge. I mean, you know, there were some other factors in there too, but you know, with some of the stuff going on. But
that was before the whole scandals and Blake Martinez stuff. That was all before that, right?
Yeah. So that was actually as Blake was getting involved in whatnot.
Okay.
Which I was all for. I was friends with the guy. I mean, we were doing deals together. Things were fine. But Pokemon was also, you could buy anything and sell it the next day for double. Like, you didn't have to. There was no scamming going on in the beginning because it was just easy money. Like, you could buy and sell the next day. So he had no reason to. So at that time, like, yeah, I was friends with the guy. But as I saw some of that stuff happening later on is when I really parted ways with them. So, there were some things going on there that I didn't like, which ultimately led to me leaving. But yeah, the job offer was just kind of like a slap in the face, like you said.
Yeah.
And I continued being a consultant for them. So I was like, I don't want the job. I'll consult for you guys, help you out where you need it. So I did that for like a year and a half. And then, yeah, once things got shady with them with that stuff, I was like, I don't want any part of this. So
all done here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that doesn't take us, because I mean, you've been at now, which we're going to jump a little bit here, but you've been at TikTok for 8 months plus, rough.
Yeah. End of September, I guess, like October 1st, really. So
Okay. Yeah, but that leaves a gap because you didn't go straight from this. Did you stay back in Pokemon running that kind of for the next few months, or?
Again, that was kind of like that was a complicated time for me. bouncing back between like Jersey and Michigan and having my priorities in the wrong places. I was also, I consulted for another company called Quid, which they're like a digital collecting app. I don't know if you're familiar with VV or Vive, if anybody is, but no. Quid is interesting. That did not last long. They got involved. Yeah, that was weird. They got involved with like the NFT side of things. I was like, I don't want to do this. Yeah. We're done. But Quid is actually the company that first sponsored Mr. Beast.
Oh, really?
Like if you go back to the early Mr. Beast videos, the very first one that he got paid like $10K to give away to some homeless guy, that was Quid. Yeah. So that's why I was like, this is interesting. I want to go work with them because they worked with Mr. Beast. Like they got him started, and I know Mr. Beast talks about it occasionally. So like that's kind of their claim to fame to me was that.
Right.
But I tried to work on collectability stuff with them, and it was just I didn't have a good enough licensing like experience and how to work with those companies, so I kind of failed. It wasn't for me, and then they got involved a lot with like the NFT side of things, and it just, that one didn't work out. I then worked for another startup that was doing 3D imaging, and I tried to push them really hard to get into cards, because I was like, you guys should just like do 3D images as cards, sell them to eBay, like I think that would have been cool, but they went the shoe and like clothing route. So I ended up going to Rare Candy at the end of that, which then led to TikTok.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, I forgot about Rare Candy. And there was a comment here, actually, ironically, from Kart Race RNG-3. Wasn't working for Leonhardt before the job. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Low in heart. Yes. I've worked with Rare Candy for 9 months. I think it was just about. Which that was fun. That was really cool. That was another great experience for a startup, right? Much smaller than Whatnot was. So high, like super fast paced, lots of responsibility, got a lot of decision making, which was a fun experience.
That's right. I remember you being on a video where you helped get one of the biggest Japanese collections, something like that.
Yeah. So they had sourced an amazing collection from a Japanese collector prior to me being there. That was mostly Alec Noah, if people know him. He pretty much made that happen. But after the fact, I came in and was helping with it. Or I mean, that was the main job. Really was facilitating all the auctions. So I got to go through that amazing Japanese collection, grade all of it.
That's awesome.
Set up the auctions for that. So that was pretty cool. But again, it was a difficult position to be in because it's a scrappy startup. Also going through an amazing collection that you want to keep and sell in a certain way, but you have certain metrics to hit. So that was a complicated one, fighting the collector versus the this is my job. So it was fun, but I'm really glad TikTok fell in my lap because I did not like living in Dallas. It was boring. It was hot. And yeah, obviously TikTok being a massive brand name, awesome opportunity. So hopped on that immediately.
Did it happen because of Rare Candy? What was the connection between you and TikTok?
Honestly, I think it was Whatnot. You know, that's why I go back and say I'm so grateful for the opportunity at Whatnot, even though it was such a combative like mostly in my mind it was combative. You know, I was a small blip on their radar. Like I was meaningless to them probably, but to me it was huge. So you know, I'm very grateful still for that opportunity and experience I had at Whatnot, even though I also regret a lot of it. But yeah, TikTok launched their e-commerce side of things, TikTok Shop, which is taking over everybody's TikTok. And they started a collectibles category like a year ago now. It's been about just over a year. And you know, it was right time, right place. You know, I think they were the collectibles team was growing. They were scrounging LinkedIn for people with experience at Whatnot, eBay, wherever, Drip, and they reached out to a ton of people. I mean, I remember a lot of people saying they were getting offered or to have conversations with them. So I mean, it was highly competitive still, but thankfully, I got the opportunity and I jumped on it as soon as I could.
I remember watching your transition video where you posted on your channel and, hey, this is what I'm doing next. And I don't know if you remember, I actually left a comment on there. I was like, yeah, I get it. Corporate world. But I think you'll be back.
Yeah, no, I'm already over it. I hate it. But no, it's, yeah, dude, it's, I need the W-2 for my loan. So sticking it out through that. And again, as much
what do you do there? Can you say?
Yeah. I'm a category manager. So I manage a lot of the bigger sellers in the collectibles category, and help them grow their businesses, help them through issues they have. You know, I do a lot of the marketing side of stuff too for the collectibles group itself. So I'm working on sponsoring shows. Like we'll be sponsoring the national at the end of the month. And then hopefully be at New York Comic Con as well. I mean, who cares? I mean, that's not like a set in stone, but yeah, we'll be at the national for sure. You'll see the TikTok logo everywhere. And yeah, so I get to do a lot of that, which is again, another great, like just resume builder. Having all that with the TikTok brand next to it is, I think, a very powerful thing. And being out in Seattle now, which is honestly a bigger tech hub than Silicon Valley now, I feel like.
Really?
Yeah, it's because of AI and Microsoft. It's growing so fast here.
Yeah, I forgot Microsoft does have a campus there.
Yeah, I mean, this is Amazon and Microsoft. That's Seattle. So amazing opportunities out here as far as the corporate life. I think I'm going to get stuck because the jobs are so great and pay so well. They call them the golden handcuffs, right? At these big tech companies. They give you all these awesome perks, but they work you to death. So, you know, I'm excited. I'm happy to be a part of it. Like it's the grass is always greener, but
of course.
But yeah, you know, I've had to balance out my risk factors of life and health and opportunity, and I think it just makes a lot more sense to be doing the corporate thing for now. I've had a lot of stuff I'm working on, but
does anybody ever get the call from John and you're managing their account? Is this D John? radar?
I do.
Yeah.
I have a few people that know who I am. It mostly works to like on the negative side. Like,
Really?
yeah, because I built up the Pokemon Radar brand bigger than what it is, right? It's that's what you do in social media. You create kind of this you have to create a brand. So
Ambiance. Yeah.
yeah, and I think I did a very good job of that. I mean, it's not all fake. Like, I mean, the things that I did. But people think that I'm bigger than I actually am, or have a bigger collection than I actually do. I mean, all that stuff that you see on my Instagram, I pretty much sold at this point. So, you know, I've done a lot of great things, and not like saying, yeah, but people who know who I am and see that I work at TikTok think that I'm like building the app. They think I'm the decision maker for everything.
You're the guy, right?
Exactly. So a lot of people, or not a lot,
okay.
most of the people who know who I am will come to me thinking I can get them a ton of viewers, do all these awesome things for them. I'm just an account manager. I can help you through like little woes, little issues. I can give you some tips on what to do, help you get set up with the campaigns they do. There's zero power. Like, no, like I'm at the bottom of the totem pole there. TikTok's a massive company. Collectibles is a tiny piece of the shop, which is a tiny piece of what TikTok is.
Yeah, as a whole.
So I'm literally at the bottom of the totem pole, and it's still a great job. I love it. But yeah, I get that. And it's usually, come on, man, I know who you are. I know what you can do. Dude, I can't do anything for you. I'm sorry.
You're John Radar. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Help me out. I need this new feature like tomorrow.
It's a nice little ego boost. You know, it feels good. But sorry, I can't help you.
Yeah, much like the previous slap in the face, the corporate world will let you know real quick that you're not making a big impact here without ruffling a lot of feathers. And
yeah. And you don't want to ruffle those feathers because then you're out.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
We got one here from Pete. Good to see you, Pete. Glad you stopped by, man.
What's up?
Question for John: who's the biggest whale you know of in Pokemon, John?
That's a tough one. Like, there's people who have a bunch of money that buy a little bit, and then there's people who don't have a bunch of money but have the greatest collections ever, right? Like, so I mean, collection wise, I mean, I can't just like tell you who the biggest whale is, but there's a couple of billionaires. Like, there's people who literally have billions of dollars who buy Pokemon. The most impact, I mean, the one who's most public about it is probably like Steve Aoki. I mean, he is super successful, has been at the top of the DJ music game for what, 10, 20 years.
Yeah, decades.
So that dude has unlimited money probably and buys whatever he wants. So Aoki's probably, as far as like impactful, he's probably the biggest whale because he's so public about it too. And then, I mean, collection wise, who's the biggest whale? I don't know. I just saw this dude, TMFT, on Instagram. He's like building out some crazy collection room. He seems like a big whale. I don't know him well. And then does anyone have a cooler DBZ collection than Bro Namath? No. He has the coolest DBZ collection.
That's the best. That's the best.
That is the best from what I know.
He wants to get some more radar games as well, right?
Oh yeah. About that. Like, that was fun. I think that was a cool idea.
That was cool. That was cool.
I also felt, I mean, that was the first time I did like mystery bag product, and I'm not completely against. I'm not against mystery product. I'm against a certain way of mystery product. Like, the way that I did it, I don't even fully agree with, because it was, yellow manila or bubble mailers. I think the people like PokeRev who does it with you have good branding, you have good packaging, you have the odds on it, you have more transparency, less of a swing of like how much you can get or how much you can lose, I guess.
Right.
I
Depends on the
think
coin. Yeah.
I think that's done right. I like even the ones at Walmart, the mystery power boxes. I love those as much as
Really?
people. Yeah, I mean, I think the value is pretty strong. I mean, most people complain about it are the ones buying it on the secondary market that are more than what it's on the shelf.
Mm.
Um, I don't even think those are I think those are fine. They could be more transparent, but what I mean, I've
Yeah.
pulled some stuff out of those. I think those are fine. It's mystery product has been around forever. Obviously, like in the sports world too, and it will be around forever. But as long as you do it in a way that's like truly good intentions, good value, and people know what they're getting into, that's fine. So I can see myself doing radar mystery bags again, but I would have to do it in a way that I feel better about it. I mean, I don't think I scammed anybody, but there were definitely some people who did not do well. So I felt
Right.
terrible about that. But
It's
that was
hard
a
to have all winners in that
yeah,
scenario. Yeah.
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 So it's you learn, you live and you learn. But it is what it is.
We got one more here from Chef. While in Seattle, have you met any new faces that are impactful to the hobby?
I think I've met the most impactful people in the hobby.
Really?
I did. I haven't released it. I still have to edit it, but it'll be the kickoff of the next Poke Radar podcast season.
Here we go. Here we go.
I did a podcast with Richard Garfield, the creator
Oh,
of Magic the Gathering. So I think he's the most
that's
impactful
awesome.
person in the world of trading cards. He created this whole thing, and a lot of the people that literally built Pokemon from the ground up, that built WotC from the ground up. I met Peter Atkinson. I met
Awesome.
a lot of these people that literally built the companies that we are doing this for.
Right.
The reason we're
With.
here is because of these guys. So yeah, I've met to me at least, the most impactful people in the hobby.
That's awesome.
Yeah, a few collectors as well, but.
Well, speaking of impactful, I really enjoyed the contribution and collaboration with TCA and running that Foundations for Peace charity.
Yeah. That's one thing I'm working on, is doing a lot more of the charity stuff. Yeah, shout out to Rusty for helping out with that. I think we'll do a lot more with him. We sold a first edition Gym Heroes box and a Magic the Gathering Odyssey box for Foundation for Peace. They're charitable Christian organization that
Right.
does a lot of educational work and helpful work with a few countries in Africa. And I'm sure we'll do a lot more, but that went really well. I'm hoping to try to figure out what to do with that. If I want to build I probably shouldn't bother building a separate thing, but I really want to build more of a charity
Nonprofit
piece of the Radar brand or whatever it turns out to be. Because I'd love to start donating a lot more to causes close to me as well. But yeah, I've met, again, as far as meeting impactful people, I've met some very great people, private collectors and people who have amassed these awesome collections over the years, being out in Washington, that just want to give back. And I've been able to kick off some of those relationships where I'm going to be the one to help out with that. So hopefully we'll see some even crazier things being sold for charity in the near future.
And that was done just privately between you and Rusty. It wasn't a TikTok thing, right?
No, yeah, just
Okay.
between Rusty and I.
Yeah.
eBay has a great feature that no one else has built in, where if you donate, you can set a percentage of your auctions or your sale to donate to charity, and
Right.
they have authorized charities that are set up with them. But if you put 100, whatever percentage that you put to charity, they take off of their fees. So we did 100% to charity. So there was 0 fees with the sale. The only
awesome.
fees that were associated were, for the buyer, sales tax, shipping, And then I don't even know if there were processing fees because eBay. I gotta talk to Rusty about that still. But yeah, like there was 0 fees. So, which is a great thing. I mean, I wish that more of these companies. I mean, obviously a lot of them are younger. eBay's been in the game for a very long time, but have that ability to do charity auctions, charity opportunities so seamlessly was great. So we'll probably be doing more through eBay.
I look forward to seeing it. I know that Rusty's a super generous, super kind person, and yeah, couldn't think of a better one to partner with, it, especially kick it all off, and hopefully see some more of that in the future.
Yeah, hopefully it works. I mean, there's the troubles. I mean, with eBay, it's hard to sell things over $10,000 sometimes because of limits that people will have on their accounts that they don't even know about. Getting things advertised on eBay is a little bit more difficult because they're such a big company.
Back to the corporate thing. Yep.
Yeah. But you do things with like Whatnot or with Heritage or Golden or whoever, you can get closer to some of the reps or some of the people to help with that. So there's pros and cons to doing it through every different platform. Right. But I think eBay was pretty great, and if we keep doing more, I'm sure it'll grab their attention.
Do you you made a drop actually of a hint earlier? You're interviewing with eBay? Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah, I'm interviewing with eBay right now. I don't mind being transparent about all this stuff. I'm interviewing with a couple places. Okay. I mean, I think that's the game in the corporate world, right? You gotta hop around.
You jump every 2 to 3 years, yeah,
and get those pay raises.
Yep.
I'm doing it so early with TikTok because obviously there's the uncertainty with with it being banned.
That kind of wrinkles things, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously still around, and who knows what's actually happening? No one actually knows. But it seemed like a reasonable time to say, hey, I'm going to look around, and if companies ask me, why are you leaving after only 9 months?
Right.
I got a reasonable explanation for it. So I
Have
figured,
you seen the news?
Yeah, I figured it was a good time to shop around.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, eBay, Walmart, Amazon, Netflix is even getting into they have a collectibles marketplace. They've had it for a while for like their shows. I did not know that. It's very hidden. It's very hard to find. But Netflix has a collectible marketplace, and they recently started doing live shows.
Huh.
So in my mind, they're going to collaborate the two at some point.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, all these big companies are doing it. Facebook, YouTube. I assume Snapchat's going to get into it. So it's a great industry, I think, to be involved with right now. I feel very lucky to have the experience that I do. I just got to figure out how to play the corporate game properly and set myself up, I guess.
You mentioned one day something about, actually was in the same video and transitioning when you were going to TikTok, and you mentioned about 10x in the industry and trying to really be a contributor for that future vision. How do you feel that you're tracking on that?
It's going to be a long ride. I think, the more that I've learned in the last 8 months at TikTok, getting into that type of position in the corporate world, unfortunately takes a lot of politics and connections to get there. So just being Pokemon Radar, a guy who has done XYZ in the Pokemon hobby, doesn't mean that much. So it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of finesse to, I guess, work my way into a position that is more impactful in the corporate world. There's a quicker route going kind of, again, like in the startup space, or, working with some of these guys who are retiring from eBay, Pokemon, wherever, that are starting up their own thing. I think I'm on the right path. I I do truly believe that this live commerce is going to be one of the biggest industries. So being involved in it um, is the right track to be on. But yeah, getting into that more impactful decision making spot, it's going to be a rough, long road. I mean, I'm only 31. The people in these positions are, I mean, some of them are younger, but most of them are in their 40s, and they've been grinding out corporate for decades, and they got their MBAs, and they've got a lot more accolades on their belt. That's that really set them up for success in that type of position. Because I mean, I complain, everybody complains about these companies doing these amazing things but not hiring hobbyists. There's a reason they don't. We don't know. We don't know how to run massive billion-dollar companies. Like there's a reason we don't. So I'm hoping to learn as much as possible, and have both sides of it to be set up for that position when the time comes, if the time comes. But yeah, I think I'm on the right track, meeting the right people, doing the right things, and yeah, I still foresee myself going there. But there's all these transition periods, all these different opportunities that are currently being planted. Who knows where I could end up in the next couple of years, but yeah, I think I'm on the right path.
I said it before, and I'll say it again, John. I think you're not wrong. I think you will find a well-roundedness in going through this process for sure. And since you are so young, you'll be able to apply this to whatever happens in the future. But I think you're going to apply it in places that you don't anticipate, and it's going to be back where you started, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
So we're all excited for you, man.
Yeah, me too. I hope so. It's yeah, things change so quickly. I mean, thankfully, I'm one to I love change. A lot of people hate change. I accept it and believe in it.
Jump in head first. Yeah,
exactly. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. It is a little scary. I mean, I saw someone mention something about industry money.
Yeah. I was holding that one right here.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that statement?
I did. I think it was a massive catalyst to support the massive growth that we saw during COVID. Logan Paul getting into the hobby truly impacted things more than any other catalyst, in my opinion. I mean, he had the proper core audience and such a massive audience that he brought so many people into the hobby. And without the institutional money that came in during the same time period or after, the collapse would have been far greater, in my opinion. So with all this money coming in, it really helped stabilize or hold up, support that growth that came in, and support the fall off that we all knew was going to happen. And it's gotten to the point now where it's becoming scary with how commercialized collectibles is becoming. I mean, Walmart
so quickly,
TikTok and whatnot has grown massively. If Amazon decides to turn the switch with collectibles, I know they don't care about it, they don't want to, but with Walmart getting into it, it's gonna push Amazon to do it. With all these massive companies getting involved and the commoditization of junk slabs and modern products, any opportunity for the hobbyist, the side gig, the investment, you're going to have to get into some very unique items. Like all
niche.
Yeah, very, very niche stuff. If you want to make money off of collectibles, it's going to have to be super niche and very, very risky. Like there was a time where this card, like a reverse expedition Charizard, was a niche item, a good item to buy, but now it's just this is going to end up in a mystery product on Walmart shelves. Every single graded card. So it's gonna it's I'm a little worried about that side of things, but it's
going to push out all the small businesses, small people.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, the big boxes step in. It usually doesn't help the small ones, that's for sure.
Right. So you're gonna have to get very creative, and or look at it like me. It's an opportunity to start a career. Like it's gonna be incredibly competitive, but take this time to throw a resume out there, see if it lands.
Well, it's funny. You mentioned going back, jumping in the career, moving around, but you also mentioned the mass amount of inventory you've been hoarding away into your storage. And there was a statement you made 2 years ago about the future at that time, 5 years later, that you would love to start your own store one day and kind of have your own shop. Is that what you're saving the inventory for? You're gonna surprise us with the radar physical location?
I think that's the retirement plan. It's going to be a long time before a physical store. With seeing all the thefts and like that's the number one thing that scares me. Like I think the Denerion, she just opened up a shop and already got robbed. Like
that's right. Yeah.
It's such a target. So I have zero interest in doing that until I'm literally like I live above it, or I'm retired and I just work out of it every day and I don't have to worry about so many other things going on.
It's more for fun.
Yeah, I think a physical shop is more for fun. The one thing that I really wish that I had dived deeper into, so many of these guys are so successful at having these streaming companies, selling live on whatnot, TikTok, everywhere. Yeah, I was so early into that. I wish I had the foresight to build out that type of, company. But there's still time for that. So I think that's where I'm headed. I'd like to, as far as getting a physical location, it would be more of a studio streaming type setup to run, pack openings and all that. So that's where I'd like to get started. If it's a physical location, inevitably launch it into a actual store. I got to visit Pokey Chloe's spot and Pokey Dean's spot in London.
Yeah, it's looked nice.
Yeah, and I mean they have a great setup. I mean they have the store. I think it was like an old bank because they have a bank vault in the back.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, like that would be the ideal thing. Like buy a building that was an old bank and then has a couple apartments or whatever above it, and I think that would be a really ideal situation if I could find something like that, or build the company big enough to a point where that's a doable thing. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, all this inventory I have, again, I'm battling of, do I just sell it all and pay off the house as quick as possible, or do I utilize it to slow roll and build out this streaming business again? And I mean, the thing is, I'm not in a rush, so that's good. As I let things age, all this product I've been buying,
probably not going down. So
yeah, hopefully not. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of it's Scarlet and Violet, so that kind of sucks. But sitting
even
on
that's going up. So
yeah, even that's going up right now. But it's sitting on 200 Charizard UPCs and stuff like of that nature. I mean,
you'll do just fine with that.
Yeah, I'll do just fine. It'll burn out quick if I'm streaming 24/7 or having somebody stream for me 24/7. But that's the idea with the inventory I have. I mean, I just scanned 1,500 cards yesterday, and then so I'm
for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a lot. So I'm just trying to figure out if I just want to do eBay, if I want to Shopify it and get it everywhere. But yeah, I mean, I plan on just diving back deep into it, buying and selling instead of buying and holding.
Right. Right.
You know,
We have a thought here from Peak. He said it would be difficult for me, not to consider selling my product to leverage, the equity right there and really focus on the real estate market.
yeah, I've listened too much to like what other people are doing on social media and what's happening in the market, and what I've come to realize is like the opportunity to buy is when you're ready. So the opportunity to buy a piece of property was now, and regardless of the interest rates and the prices out here, I was ready. So I did it. And now that's my main goal, is to make sure that I don't go underwater with being house. Yeah.
House poor.
And yeah, I'm definitely not buying like I used to. I'm not taking risks like I used to. I'm building up a considerable amount of cash before I buy anything. I'm definitely not taking any loans out or putting things on my credit cards like I used to. So it's a much slower process right now, but yeah, I think that I'm set up. Again, I don't know what everyone's position is, but I'm set up where if I pay off this house as soon as possible and I'm still working at TikTok or wherever, that's a lot of money to go buy more stuff. So
yeah, I'm about to say you're free at that point. If your debt's gone, your house is paid off, you don't have a car payment, like you're good. Like
exactly.
Utilities, groceries, that's it. Taxes.
Yeah. So it's it's definitely hard though. I mean, I love this stuff. I love these cards. I love having a bunch of it. But money in the bank and a paid off house also is
it
nice.
Feels really good. Yeah. I'm not sure which one feels better, but we'll ask you after you're done.
Yeah. We'll come back in 30 years after the mortgage is made.
Yeah. We'll have a bunch of regrets. We'll talk about them then. Good to see you, Nesto. This is the job interview Wonder has been practicing for all this time. Good to see you, Nesto. Thanks for coming by, man.
I love seeing these names. I haven't seen these guys in a long time.
We all miss you, man. We miss you.
I want to do some live streams again. I miss the live streams.
Yeah. It's fun bringing in the team and getting to see all our friends out there.
Yeah.
Chatting in. I love it. All right. So card stores, when you retire, you're going to run the corporate world for now, looking to maybe jump around, maybe eBay, maybe somewhere else. Where do you see, because I think you have an interesting vantage point as you sit right now currently in TikTok. And I asked something similar to most of the guests because everybody has a different perspective. How do you see the market of Pokemon collectibles at this moment? Now, we talked about obviously big box moving in, but are we already down from the peak? Are we maybe even focusing just on Pokemon for a minute? Do you think we've seen that peak for the time being and we're going to ride something down for a little while, or
I think
there's still growth?
Yeah, I think we've already been down for a while and things have been creeping up. There's been obviously a huge interest in modern. Vintage hasn't moved at all in the last 2 years. I personally biased and thinking that's a great opportunity to buy, but
right.
Again, it could be fleshed out at the point where that's what it is. That's what the prices are going to be. It's going to fluctuate 10-20% from there, and that's what it'll be. But the market as a whole, I think that Pokemon is doing a lot of great things. They have a lot of stuff to figure out with Scarlet and Violet being so poor. It's an interesting time period. There's people retiring that have been at the top of these companies, at top of Pokemon, top of Wizards, for Magic. I think between those two companies, a lot of people are retiring. I think the president of WotC just went over to Funko.
Yeah, I think so.
This new era of people coming in, even in the Pokemon company in Japan, Ichihara is getting up there in age. So as this torch gets passed, I'm really curious to see how these brands are handled. I mean, we're seeing Pokemon
Mm.
doing a lot more brand deals with big companies. We're seeing, them get a lot closer to influencers. They're putting influencers up on their website now for
Yeah.
Pokemon Worlds, and this new age of honestly the digital world, I think, has such a high potential growth for these companies if they do it correctly. That in the next couple of years, I think there's going to be a big opportunity. The like Magic, what they're doing with Universes Beyond or whatever the term is,
Oh, right.
is so cool. I don't think they've landed perfectly on it yet,
Yeah.
but they're gonna figure it out. All these companies that they're partnering with are gonna want to start their own game. They're gonna want to collaborate with Magic or somebody else. So I just think that the card space industry as a whole is going to be growing quite a bit over the next 10 years. Disney Lorcana is the main driver for this. I mean, what are we 2 years in with them now, or a year and a half, and they're seeing their first downturn? These Amazon dumps and everything. If they can this is literally, in my opinion, is all up to Disney Lorcana is going to be the greater success of trading cards.
Okay.
Because I can see Disney pulling out. If they go into a lull with their card game and it lasts too long, and whatever execs at Disney don't understand the trading card collectibles market well enough and see them losing money or see a bad image on their products and pulling out, I can see that happening. But if Disney can stick through it and stick with Ravensburger, who I think is a great company for this, if they can stick through this first massive downturn and come out stronger,
right,
that'll be one of the biggest driving factors of trading card games growing. Because Magic again is expanding into all these different audiences. They have their own stuff to figure out. They need to get the Pro Tour or something back on board.
right.
But Pokemon is doing great things too. And I mean, they're printing more cards than ever. They have more interest than ever in their tournaments. They could even expand the playability side. I'm sure Charlie talked about that. I don't know if he did or not, but Pokemon has a lot that they can move into.
Yeah. They're holding back. They're moving nice and slow and steady.
I got to meet with them, and it's really interesting. They're a slow company, for many, for very specific reasons. They have a brand to protect, but it's I've joked about it for so long. Pokemon is so good at giving you not enough, that but you always so want more with them. Yeah, exactly. It's like they purposely make these decisions that seem stupid just to rile their fans up, to say, oh, you could have done this. It's such a low-hanging fruit. And they just save it for the next one and the next one and the next one.
Then they give you 20% of what it could have been on the next release. Yeah,
exactly. And I believe that they are so well aware of that. At least I want to believe that they're so well aware of that, because it is genius. It is absolute genius.
I like how you put your pulse on Disney. That's really interesting, or Lorcana specifically. Interesting one to watch. And I know shout out to Ivy. She was on the podcast last. Ivy has her store. She's in LA area, and she is, one of the top, Disney stores there. And tournament play for her is through the roof.
Really?
And she sells more Disney than anything else, than Magic or anything else. And so the number of tournaments that she hosts there and the turnouts, week over week have just grown tremendously. So from a tournament play and customer in store, for her, Disney was number one. So it's interesting that you mentioned it that way.
I mean, think about what they could do with global tournaments, like passes to their parks, to their cruises.
Exactly. Like combine those two things.
Yeah. Like you win the world championship with Lorcana and get a lifetime pass to Disney World or something. They could host worlds on a cruise ship. They could.
Exactly.
There's
That's
so
the
much
thought
that
came to
they can
mind.
do
Yeah.
with that. And I mean, obviously their IP is just bigger than anything else. And how they can expand it and collaborate with all the other IPs that they own. I mean, it's endless.
Well, I think we just figured out something here, John. That's the next company you need to go work for.
Disney. Yeah. No, it's funny. I mean, I think one of their parks, or maybe all their parks, they have like fake storefronts and always have had fake storefronts.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And
I've never been.
Never?
No.
How old are you?
I've always wanted to go. Yeah.
You gotta take your kids. Come on. Yeah. And I believe it's Disney. It's one of the parks. They have a fake storefront that has like a collectible store. I don't know what I've gone more to Disney than I should, but I love it. And I mean they don't have any Lorcana packs in their parks. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, they need to get that in there. So I'd love to open up, be the director of card shops for all their parks and just have a collectible store in every single park. That'd be really cool.
There you go, Disney.
Yeah. But
sales director.
But yeah, Ravensburger has a good, they're the ones that have control over the trading card game, and they have a small but great team of people that are ex-WotC, ex-Pokemon people that know what they're doing. You can still know what you're doing and still make mistakes, but they have a good backbone of industry people working on that game.
That should hopefully help them weather that storm.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully. But yeah, that'd be really cool. Working for Disney, doing trading card stuff, that would be a dream. I back in college when I was doing all the funky clothing stuff, a lot of it fell on Disney sweaters. That Disneyania or whatever the term is. I mean, I still have a bunch of Disney shirts and sweaters that are really cool, but I always I don't know why they don't have a vintage Disney store at these parks. I mean, they've done a better job with some of their merch lately, but it's so bland and boring that they could easily have like one vintage store to appease all the old people. I want some weird stuff. I want a Bug's Life stuff that doesn't exist anymore. I
forgot about that.
Yeah, I want the stuff that I grew up with, and they just, I mean, obviously they cater to the new kids now, but why not just one little small vintage section? For the adults.
Guys like us will pay for it, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I love it. Hey, Basic, good to see you. Here we go.
Of course.
If or when you buy MetaZoo, what would your direction be for its future?
So I strongly believe that there's going to be I'm going to call it like a manufactured nostalgic wave for MetaZoo in the next 3 to 4 years. There's a lot of people holding on, or at least a few people holding on to a ton of MetaZoo. And I think there's going to be a forced nostalgia wave, and people are the price will spike for a little bit. I know that they're trying to sell. I don't know if they've been bought or if anyone's going to buy them, but
lots of talks.
Yeah, I have an appreciation for them. If it wasn't for MetaZoo, I wouldn't have a distributor. So shout out to MetaZoo for getting me hooked up with a distributor, so that I could buy Pokemon cards and not MetaZoo. But looking at MetaZoo from like a broad perspective, they did a pretty incredible thing. They were also going the right direction with a few things, like with their competitive play. I think they were going the right direction, but then they gave up on it and expanded into other things and sold out a bit. But I think that if somebody bought them, I mean, that's the direction that they're headed, right? Is looking for someone to buy them. I think if they went back and focused on the competitive aspect of the game, they could survive. They could rebuild and be a small trading card company.
That was always the criticisms we heard early on, and even now, after the fact, is you could tell that wasn't a focus on the players. It wasn't a focus on LGSs, and it was just very clear and intentional from the beginning.
But it's funny, like they came in strong. They were giving out like what, $100,000 to the winners of tournaments and stuff. Is that Am I right about that?
It was a high number. I don't know if I know Basic could rattle it off. He was a big player in the tournament, but
like that could have changed the industry a little bit, because like Magic tournaments used to be huge and they pulled back. Pokemon is growing. I mean, the way that they're doing Worlds now is awesome. I mean, it's so much bigger than it used to be. And if MetaZoo had successfully continued and pushed that, they could have forced Magic to start doing something, because I know that I believe Flesh and Blood also does pretty well with their player base and have a pretty strong, like professional tour. If these companies could have stole enough players from Magic, it could have forced them to really improve that side of their business, which I really hope they do still. But that was the key. That was the key to MetaZoo, I think. And they went too wide, too fast. But
they came in hard. They came in hot. They did good on many things.
To say no to the opportunities they had, like, I mean, partnering with Aoki and getting into Walmart and Target or wherever.
Yeah.
And how do you say no to that? I mean, it just seems like such a great financial opportunity. It's terrible that they didn't succeed, but I mean, I would have had a tough time not doing a Hello Kitty collab or doing these massive collabs.
I don't know if I would have done any better, to be honest. And it's been difficult.
Those are tough to pass up on.
Yeah. Well, John, we're going to wrap it over to the content space. We touched on it a little bit, man. We gotta see where we're going, and I think we got a little tidbit, so we'll kind of reverse the order here. We'll go backwards, and we'll start with the present.
Yeah.
So, podcast coming back. You got stuff pre-recorded?
Yeah. I mean, I just have that one episode sitting, but have plans to record some more. I think the podcast will forever be a on and off thing, unless it becomes like a steady like income stream. But yeah, I'm going to try to do it a little bit differently this time. I think I'm going to record everything, as many episodes as I think fit in a season ahead of time. Try to do some sponsorship reach out beforehand, see if I can land any of that. But I think that's the one thing that always stressed me out with the podcast, was I was kind of doing it a couple weeks or a month at a time, and I had to squeeze things in certain time frames, and it just made it stressful. Again, I kind of look back at a lot of the stuff that, for the reason for me stopping, is stress. And if I just record everything ahead of time and have it scheduled ahead for 6 months or however long the season ends up being, I think that would be a lot more enjoyable, and I can plan it out a little bit better. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for the next season of the podcast is recording, 12, 24 episodes or however long it is ahead of time, and then releasing it week by week. I'll just have to figure out a better strategy or plan for that, because of, it's nice recording. I mean, the pros obviously of recording week by week is you can talk about current events and everything.
Right. So
I'll have to do a lot more planning and thinking ahead of how these conversations will go. But it's really necessary to do it that way, because I travel so much. I mean, I was at home for like 5 days last month. Cool. So there's so much travel happening with me right now. It's tough. So if I'm going to do the podcast, it's going to have to be that way, where I record at X number of episodes ahead of time and get it all done in a specific time period and scheduled out. The other piece of it is, I mean, being on the road so much, I think the one reasonable thing that I can start doing again is just like Instagram Reels, Instagram posts. I mean, it's such a easy mobile short content piece that I can be doing. I just have to figure out maybe some sort of series that I want to do, or if I want to make it more professional content-y, or if I just kind of go back to posting cards and
Right.
kind of doing
Collector
that.
fun stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, the podcast pre-recorded it gives you a lot more control, and I've really debated that from the beginning of starting this one, and I've so thoroughly enjoyed the lives.
yeah.
That intertwining the conversation, the chat, the audience, of course, the guest, and trying to have a good balance of that. While it's a little bit hard, it is very enjoyable. And to your point, pre-recording. So if I look at your stuff, which I did, and for inspiration, still do. I love how you can really promote it prior to launching the episode, and you can really put a lot more into it. In cases like this, I'm making a post, maybe an image or something like that, and that's about as much as I can do. Now I follow it up with shorts, but it'd be nice to promote it ahead of time and really know who your guests are, but you have to be so specific on timely or timeless content. Yeah. That's gonna be the challenge.
I think it's there's an opportunity to do both. I mean, the other thing with the pre-recording, it helped out with, so like some of the guests that I would have on, I guess more so the corporate-y guys, it made them more comfortable to not do it live.
Right. They made a mistake. You can cut it out.
Yeah, and it's just, for me, the way that I'm a relationship guy. I mean, I am only able to have done what I've done because of the network I created, and honestly, just naturally great at finding and building relationships. And that's just a level of comfort that I could offer people is, hey, this is pre-recorded. If something gets said that you don't like, or if you don't want this posted at all,
right,
it doesn't matter. We're just having a conversation. So it would really set the tone. There's just some people who are uncomfortable doing it live. So it would really help set the tone and make that conversation flow a lot better. I do the aspect of having a chat to rely on a little bit to help, any dead spots is something I always wanted, but it didn't really, to me, that didn't outweigh the power of the comfort that came from pre-recording with the guest. So that's why I chose the way I chose. And then, I guess the ability to market ahead of time was helpful as well. But the live side of things is definitely nice to have. Also, you do a lot more research than I did. I did zero research, zero prep. I literally would just hop into these things and talk, which was good and bad. It
wasn't like that always, because there was times you did research on your guests, at least initially.
Yeah. I mean, well, the thing is, like,
or at least you remember what you watched from them because you did it for fun.
Yeah, I did it for fun. That's the thing. I never sat down and planned out a podcast. I'm just not. I'm not a planner. I wish I was better at that. But I spent all that time, again, building the relationships, actually knowing these people, watching content, doing all these things. It became ingrained in me that I knew who these people were. I knew where good conversations would go, what good questions that would just pop up. Very good at listening to what is happening in the conversation in the moment. I learned that one from past girlfriends, being a better listener.
I was going to go there anyway, so.
But I've never really prepped, and I don't say that as like a braggy, oh, I'm cool, I don't need to prep.
I didn't take it that way.
With some, I mean, people do, but it's, I think especially doing a live, got to be more prepared, because you don't want any of those dead spots. You don't want to hit any awkward moments. Like, you've got to be prepared for everything when it comes to live. And it seems like you do a lot of research before any of your podcasts. At least that's what I hear. So
appreciate that. Yeah. And the corporate world will help you out with that too.
Yeah.
The more you're in the corporate world, the more you have to do all that prep, and then you're there and whatever, a board meeting.
Yeah.
Things don't go well. What do you do? Yeah.
It's funny. I'm doing it now for the corporate world, and I'm good at it.
Yep.
But when I get home, I don't want to do any of it. So it's gotten worse where I want to do less prep for my own stuff.
I
But
understand.
but
You
no,
just
I
got to quit
am.
your job. That's an easy fix.
I just got to quit my job. And then I'm good. I've built up the skills. I literally, hey, TikTok, I took this job because I just want to learn how to prep.
Right.
I'm out.
I'm a better podcaster today. But you also had some grand visions on the podcast, and I want to hear, what are your thoughts now? You wanted to do a studio. You wanted to fly people in, look for assistants. I mean, I think we all kind of envisioned some of that. You think it's still there?
It gets so expensive. I need if for any of that to happen, I would need the podcast to land some sponsors and have it be profitable, or not even profitable, just float it. Or again, hopping around and doing this corporate life, if I can start getting paid more where it's something I can invest in myself,
Out of pocket, yeah.
Happy to do that. So, I mean, the grand vision has always been the Netflix series of collectors with cards drinking coffee and just do the Jerry Seinfeld thing, but with collectors.
Awesome.
I don't know if Netflix would go for it, saying, "Hey, I'm going to go meet with this guy, Peek That Shoe, and look at some of his video games and Pokemon cards." They'd be like, no.
Yeah,
so,
we're not sending anybody with you. You're by yourself there. But.
Yeah, like that show would work if it's, hey, I'm going to hang out with Logan Paul. Hey, I'm going to hang out with Steve Aoki.
Right.
Hey, I'm going to hang out with these celebrities. Then they would buy into it, but I would not enjoy that. So I'd rather do it with Pokey Rev and Cool Trainer Ryan, and so that's the grand vision. That would be awesome to have a show. And walk around like that and go places and meet people and just have conversations like that. But yeah, it would be a slow build to that. And if anyone has a person at Netflix that I can pitch it to, let's go for it.
Yeah, let us know. Drop in the chat, guys. Biggest person you know at Netflix.
Yeah.
Kind of a sidebar here, John. It kind of dawned on me that have you thought about looking at podcasting outside of Pokemon?
Honestly, personally, no. I've had plenty of people come up to me and ask, like, "Hey, we should do a podcast on music. Hey, we should do a podcast on comedy. We should do a podcast on whatever." That would only work if it was done with like a really close friend of mine or something that I could just go on and on and on about anything forever. I mean, I look at people like Jarvis Johnson, who does a podcast with one of his buddies who he worked with, and they can just talk about anything really, and it works out.
He's good at what he does.
There's the basement yard guys. Those two guys are hilarious together. So I would love to do something like that, but I just need to find the right person to do that with. And honestly, I don't know who that would be or how that would work out, but it would be a lot of fun. The only problem is podcasting is so competitive. It worked in Pokemon because I was the only one doing it, and I had a little bit of a following. So, getting a couple thousand listeners puts you in like the top 10% of podcasts. So,
exactly.
Like, yeah,
you're already
at
the top. Yeah. Got 2 episodes in. I made it.
Yeah. The ceiling for Pokemon podcasts though is quite low. I mean, my one with Pokey or with CTR is gone over like 25K views, but that is a rare instance. So.
Yeah, I mean, we are in a niche, and as PK always says, niches of niches. And we talked for 3 hours, and next thing you know, I mean, there's the audience size for a 3-hour Pokemon podcast is quite small.
Yeah,
but the real question is are you having fun? That's it. Right, exactly. Yeah. All right. When you think about this, though, one of the things I always like to take away from what we do, in this case, we're talking about podcasting, is what does it teach you and how have you applied it in your life, especially now in the corporate world? What have you taken away? Yeah, because you've done it for a long time.
Yeah, again, I think it's really improved that the the conversational piece of sitting back and listening and kind of like really reading a room, reading the moment. I feel like I can analyze or adapt something said like in much more detail very quickly. So
I would agree with that.
That's helped out a lot. Where, I mean, again, I've been a very emotional decision maker in my life, and I think the podcast has kind of allowed me to giving me like the experience to sit back a little bit more and take things in instead of reacting.
Right.
So that's probably the biggest thing. And then honestly, the marketing side, understanding what people want to hear, how to approach questions in specific ways it's a bit manipulative, but to get the answer that you want out of people.
Right. It's going to pull in a direction, and
yeah, like I think, and it became natural at some point, but I knew which question or moment would be the intro to all my videos, the little like teaser.
Right.
And I just knew how to properly ask it and the pace to ask it at. Like, there's all these little things that you don't think about when it comes to talking with somebody. I mean, there's books you can read on all this stuff. I've never read them because I don't like reading, but like literally the way that you pace your talking can control a conversation, can change the tone of everything in the room. So it's taught me a lot about really just analyzing and not being as reactive to things said in a conversation. My face might say otherwise when I hear something. That's something I need to
red cheeks.
Yeah. I've got to work on the facial expressions when I hear something stupid or whatever in a board meeting of some kind. But but at least what I say is a little bit more under control.
Composed. Yeah. One thing at a time, John. We can't fix the world all at once, man.
That's right. Yeah. What about you? Sorry, I'm asking one question. What about you? What have you learned from podcasting?
I'll start it from two different directions. One is going back to what we were talking about earlier, and somewhat jokingly, but somewhat serious. The transposing of my skills, 22 years-ish in the corporate world, to this space, I never really fathomed that they would have any value. Like I didn't see that translating over. And it wasn't like I sat down and said, oh, well, if I do this and I do it in a podcast, then that's going to be, a positive thing. It was just doing what I was used to doing. So if I'm going to have a presentation for a board meeting, I'm doing research, I'm doing this, I'm building a product, whatever it may be. And applying just what was my habit really to podcasting became something I felt was a differentiating factor. And so I thought that was really nice to see some of those skills move out of that world and into this space. What I learned, and I would say, not to be too braggy here, but my wife can confirm, I am a good listener. And now that did happen over years, and don't feel bad. I have like 10 years above you two. So I went through my past girlfriends as well. So I'm married because I'm a good listener. I stay married because I'm a good listener. Maybe not always a good actor, but I'm a good listener. And that's definitely increased as well here. And I've really struggled in the beginning because I actually found myself in bigger positions in the corporate world. But then when I jumped into the Pokemon space, it was like I was starting over. And so I was almost nervous for something that I shouldn't be, because I have the skill set to perhaps do it, or at least the same that I did before. But find that groove. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I feel I'm nervous at work. Like
all the time.
It's
weird. Yeah. But applying that through this, but then trying to navigate the live chat back to our previous points and having this dynamic of I'm preparing for the podcast. I've watched a lot of your content, for example, for a long time. And so knowing some of that off the top of my head was good, but then structuring it in a way that I felt was a good flow was something that was, I never built conversational flow. It was easy to do a presentation. Yeah. It was easy to say, here's the product, here's the sales pitch, here's whatever the case is. But to build a conversational flow and then weave in a live chat, I think was the hardest part for me. Yeah. And that's probably a skill set that I don't know what it'll translate to, but I'll try to see where I can take that. Yeah. It'd be fun. But it was interesting. So when we think about this also from the podcasting perspective, I want to hear from you. What do you think makes a good podcast? When you, a podcaster, are watching, because we're gonna look at it with a different critique, right?
Yeah, it's all about the conversation. I think as a host, it's again we have slightly different approaches. Where again with my like full on no preparation, complete adaptation to what's being said in the conversation. I mean that's a fine line to walk on. Like again, I could lead into asking a question that completely kills the vibe of the podcast or the attitude of the guest, but it also gives me the opportunity to get that guest to open up way more than they ever would have if I just have a set list of questions.
Yep.
So for me personally, what makes a great podcast is that dynamic capability of getting a guest to open up and talk about things that they never would have talked about before. I look at a lot of the guests that I've had, and I mean they've been on other podcasts before, and a lot of the questions are the same. I mean, I'll ask some of the same questions too, but what makes a great podcast is getting your guests to talk about something they've never talked about before. And finding a way into that can be difficult. But when you do that and it excites them, it makes for a great conversation. So it's all about that conversation, all about making the other person comfortable. And I think that's good enough to make a great podcast, because if you get someone to talk passionately, talk emotionally about something, then it doesn't matter what you're talking about, who you're talking about it with. It just makes for great content. So, yeah.
And I feel like you say that almost as still John Radar and you hosting podcasts.
Yeah.
That's like your kind of magic recipe. But as a consumer, do you still feel, I mean, if you're listening to something outside of Pokemon, do you still feel that's the mix? Because you may not know if that's out of that person's character. You didn't know the guest, for example.
Yeah. I mean, like Joe Rogan's podcast, for example, I really only enjoy his podcast that he has his like comedian buddies on. When he brings on, like you get the real people out of that at some point. I mean, it takes a little bit for them to get going, but like when he has on some scientist or some whatever expert, it's a very manufactured conversation, and it doesn't tend to go into any weird places. It's just very straightforward and too educational. But when he gets his buddies on, who knows where it's going? They
smoking
talk about
cigars, taking shots.
Yeah. Like that, I truly enjoy. Like they could be talking about nothing, and I will enjoy listening to it. It's like the basement yard guys. They go on these tangents and talk about literally nothing, but it's the most entertaining, hysterical thing I'll listen to. So that connection between the people having the conversation are what makes me entertain, what makes me like it.
It's almost like an unspoken energy that you can pick up just by listening. And you can't really put it to words, but you can tell when it's two friends or a group of guys or whatever the case is, just having a blast.
Yeah.
And then enjoying nothing, right? And
Yeah.
you're there and you're enjoying it with them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's tough to do. It's tough to find those types of people, especially when you're doing a podcast like this. You know, if you don't spend that time with your guests, you know, you can lose that opportunity to have those moments in the episode, in that conversation you're having with them. But it's very time consuming. It's a relationship you have to mold and manage, and
Exactly.
you only have so much time between a job and a family and all this stuff. So
fully agree. And one of the things I've seen, you struggle with, and we've spoken about it a little bit here, is not getting burned out and really sticking on a journey that keeps you excited.
Yeah.
Have you found that sauce yet? Because I feel like you're still navigating, still struggling a little bit.
I feel like the sauce is just go in and out of it at this point. Like, that's the secret. Do it, get burnt out, come back.
Reborn.
It's yeah, I have not figured that balance out yet. I think that I'm curious to see what happens with my demeanor, my decision making once I have this house to move into.
You still don't have it yet. Okay.
No, it's a new build, so I'm waiting for it to get finished. But I've literally the last 5-6 years, I have moved once or twice a year. And having that in the back of my head, knowing I'm not going to be here, knowing I'm going to be somewhere else, it's those outside stability factors that I think have really been the key impact drivers for that decision making. I mean, I still have a storage unit full of stuff in Michigan. I have a storage unit here off. Like I just have, like, having so many things in different places that I somewhat need to do what I want to do makes it difficult. So I'm hoping that having, I've got the stability of a job now, so I've got the income coming in. I don't have to worry about paying my bills. I don't have to grind out for a week something else to cover an expense and take time off from making content. Although having the 9 to 5 is very tiring, and with all the travel, still makes it difficult. So the job, the stability of income. Once I get the house, I'll have the stability of knowing where I'm going to be at for the next 3 to 5 years, which may not seem that long to some people, but to me, it seems like an eternity. So that's going to be really nice. And then, I mean, again, being in the same place will also bring the stability of friendships and relationships and that part of my life to one place. I mean, I have so many great friendships, so many great relationships with people all around the world now. And obviously the core group and family back in Michigan. But being in the same place for a period of time and however long it's going to be, I'd love to be where I'm at for the rest of my life. I love Washington. Really? I think it's gorgeous. It's so beautiful. Just getting that circle of people around me that is consistent, and I don't have to worry about moving away from or whatever, is also going to be a very impactful part of that stability. So, I truly believe that those outside factors being constantly up in the air, so many unknowns, just bleed into everything else. Yeah. As much as I would want that the content, the podcast or whatever, to be that thing I hold on to that gives me that stability, it's just not enough. I mean, it's just a fun thing that I'm doing. It's not making me money. It's not, it impacted my life professionally more ways than I thought it would, with how it reached certain people and they got in contact with me because of it. But again, that's just like opening doors. It's not like I could have done.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Have you thought? And I know you did that interview with Pat a while back, and
Yeah.
he had, I'm sure, some good things to say both on and off camera in terms of changing the podcast to be a revenue generator.
Yeah.
Have you considered, other than sponsorships, which we spoke to, but have you thought about any of the other ones?
Any other revenue generators for the podcast?
Right. So like he had like a Patreon, for example, was
Oh,
one of his suggestions, and like he'd
yeah.
have like a private session after, and
Yeah.
kind of like Jordan Peterson does, for example.
Right. Now that I think to have that in my mind, to be ethical with that, it had to be a consistent thing, and knowing that
Right.
the podcast would go in and out, having people on a Patreon that might be paying for something when I'm not making content just didn't seem like a great thing to do. But no, that's definitely a piece of it that I'm thinking about. I'm also, I've been talking with some other, I've been able to meet a lot of potential like sponsors that I want to talk to more, but I've been talking to one specifically that it would work out where like I keep a separate piece for them so that it pushes their stuff, and then I get a piece of So I think that's definitely the route to take when I redo this. And even that, like with the Patreon, I can set it up so it's like, all right, guys, this is going to be live for 3 months, 6 months, and then I'm going to cut it off. So having a better plan ahead to monetize that way makes a lot of sense. So yeah, it's all there. Just a matter of doing it.
Well, and you brought up a good point earlier, and maybe this will change one day. I don't do it for those reasons, but it'd be interesting if we grew to that level. But Pokemon podcasts will be difficult to have the views that drive that kind of revenue generation. You're not going to get that kind of people. You're not going to have a couple million followers that are going to watch a 3-hour podcast. That's just not going to happen.
So, I mean, the way that you can sell it to companies is, I mean, the positive part of being a niche within a niche. Everybody watching is a strong potential consumer. Like everybody watching is here for a reason. Not many people stumble upon this. Everybody watching is a collector. Everybody needs sleeves, needs a binder, needs grading, needs something. Like I had Graded Guard, an affiliate code for my podcast this last session, and I mean, I sold a few $1,000s worth of graded cards for them.
Awesome.
So there's opportunity, even though with the numbers being small, they can still be impactful. So that click through rate, that conversion rate to a purchase is much higher for us, even with the smaller audience. So there is a conversation, a negotiation to be had with some of these potential sponsors.
Yeah. Be interesting. I do wish you the best. We miss you, John, as I said it, and hope to see you back as quickly as possible. But I understand work and travel is tough, and it consumes a lot of time and energy to move it that way. I fully understand. Couple of things too, and I was wondering, what was that event in Paris that you went to, John? I wasn't aware of it. It looked really nice. That was hilarious. Drinking the coffee. Acrobatics happening.
That was a great moment that just happened. That was Le Gala TCG.
Okay.
Le Gala. It was started by a good friend, Mr. Fuji. Mr. Fuji and I believe a couple other guys put the show together. This was their fourth show.
Okay.
They did. Yeah, so they did two years prior. They did one each year in Paris, and then this year they did one in Germany and then Paris again.
Okay.
An amazing show. It completely blew my mind what the turnout was like, and it was so well done. Obviously expensive getting there, going there, and everything, but the card show itself It was a 2-day event. The card show was great. I mean, the turnout of people going, there was a lot more people out there than I thought there would be. But the really cool thing was the corporate sponsors who were there. Like Lorcana was there, Star Wars Unlimited was there. All the grading companies were there, PSA, CGC, Whatnot was there. PWCC was there, or Fanatics, no. And the creator of Digimon was there. So they had a great turnout of not only like customers and collectors, but of the corporate side of things as well.
Is it built around a charity? I'm just not familiar.
No, I don't know. I don't believe so, but I don't know. And then they have that special event, that fancy dinner.
Yeah. Right.
That was really awesome because of that. If I ever throw a party or if I get married,
what it gotta be like. Yeah.
Like I gotta have a saxophone player, and it's gotta be that level.
Chocolate Pikachus you can crush with your hand.
The original song that I made for that reel got taken down, so I had to put a different song in, and it doesn't fit as well. But but that event, man, I mean, I never thought Pokemon card collecting events would get to that level. It was so well done, so well put together. I mean, I got to meet crazy collectors. I mean, both from the U.S. and out there. I met Daniel Chang from Vintage Magic. He brought some of the original artwork from like the Power 9 and stuff, which was super cool to see. But yeah, some of the collectors there, unbelievable, from Europe, that brought stuff in to take a look at. And then obviously the dinner was so high class. I mean, super good food. It was very expensive, but great food. The golden Pikachu chocolate thing that I blew up with my hand. And like at the end of the
Bulbasaur 3D printing thing.
Oh, there's the 3D printing. Well, that was a Blastoise. That was some random collector from Germany that made those. There was some artwork done. And yeah, I got to meet a lot of great collectors, sat at a table with random people that, I'd never met before. That was a lot of fun, from Germany and other places. And like they brought a platter of like sealed product for us to open up at the end of it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
and yeah, they had the acrobats there. And I'm telling you, this dude with the saxophone, I didn't post much of it, but it was hype. The people were going nuts.
They were dancing.
It was great. And
there's something about a sax. I don't know what it is, man.
Yeah, it's just the energy that comes from it is amazing, and it fits so well with so many great songs. It was so much fun, and yeah, I had that moment where I got to drink a little bit of tea or coffee with the acrobats just happened to be right there, so it was very funny. If you could hear the actual music going on, I know I put like a cafe music in the background, but the music that was being played was saxophone and like Queen, like super loud, super
nice.
Yeah, so it was funny.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I was like, I'm not sure about this event. I've never seen it before. It looked really nice. Like that combination of Pokemon, high class, dressing up, nice dinners. I was like, okay, hobbies really stepping it up.
Yeah,
I like
it. It's a level that I never thought it would be at. And I think he wants to expand, possibly try to get one in the US. But if somebody could do that in the US, that would be awesome.
That'd be awesome.
It was, I mean, a big thing of it too was like it was a good group of people. I mean, it was a solid group of collectors and sellers and corporate people that just made the event fun. If it was fairly small still, like that dinner part of it. So, I know there's keeping it exclusive can be bad for people, but at the same time, it makes the event a little bit more what's the word?
Manage it better.
Yeah,
it's manageable.
Yeah.
I understand. Fully understand.
Yeah,
it's just pros and cons.
Right.
And thinking about your Instagram, and I was watching a few things. One of the recent ones you put out there was ironic for me because I listen to a lot of Alan Watts and different other philosophers as well. But Alan Watts is one of them I listen to. And the statement that you had, I think you were down by the lake, it was during your like hiking trip or whatever that was. The statement from Alan was better to have a short life that's full of what you love doing than a life spent in a miserable way. Somewhat of a paraphrase, but pretty close.
Yeah.
Um, do you follow that? Do you? Cause I feel like a lot of what you try to, this change that we spoke to, this always moving to whatever that fluid dynamic thing is, whether it's the conversation or it's the career. I feel like it's you making sure you're living in that sweet spot.
Yeah. I mean, number one, I honestly, because of Pokemon and really during the COVID period, I was able to put myself in a financial spot that gave me more freedom, that allowed me to travel, take away that stress of of money. I mean, that's the biggest thing that allowed me to kind of look at life. Well, I mean, that was the thing that allowed me to live life in that way.
Mm.
The reason that I look at life that way now is just because of my health. Like, I went through some pretty serious health issues, and it is inevitable for me at some point that things will go bad again. So I know that I have a shorter clock to go do these types of experiences, at least in a comfortable way. And yeah, it's been, the health has been an eye opener for how to live life
Mm.
in a better way. Try to take in every experience as something special, or the last time of it, the last time that I might be doing it. So as much as I want to prepare for the future and set myself up for the future, I've come to realize that nothing is going to be guaranteed, and it's money is forever something you chase, no matter how much you have of it. So I've been a lot more open to saying yes to things, and and making, like I've said this whole time, making emotional decisions that might not be logical but feel right in the moment and give me an experience that I wouldn't have otherwise. So I've said yes and done a lot of things that most people have told me are stupid to do, and
Right.
definitely did not set myself up correctly financially for the future. But man, I lived some crazy experiences in the past 5 years. I mean, I went home recently to Michigan and sat down with a friend of mine from college who just had a kid, and we just kind of went over life since college, because we haven't really connected much. And I mean, I went through all the life experiences I've had with with partners, with traveling for work, with doing this Pokemon stuff. And she's like, "Man, you've lived like 5 lives in one already." And uh, yeah,
On purpose. Yeah.
not it's I never expected to be able to do the things that I've done, and knowing that that time is ticking for everybody, but
Right.
just with the unique situation that I have gone through, I've done my best to truly live life the best that I can. And
I wasn't aware of a health issue that you had.
yeah, I had ulcerative colitis at the end of college, and it was like a
Mm.
very, very severe case, which kept me from doing a lot of things. Bathroom issues are a very embarrassing and pretty difficult thing to work around. Like, if you've had food poisoning or anything, you kind
Yeah.
of scared to leave your house or
You
go
just
go
stay somewhere
anywhere.
safe. Exactly.
Yes, be close to a clean bathroom, accessible bathroom. Um, so like that uprooted my entire life. Like, the way that I live life is
Mm.
completely changed. Um, the anxiety around food, the anxiety around going out, going to somewhere
I
unfamiliar,
see.
anywhere crowded, right? needing to be close to a bathroom. Like it
Yep.
changed the entire way that I lived, the entire way that I thought. Like how every time I eat food, how is this going to affect me? I can't go into eating food
Can't have one
anymore
meal.
and just be calm about it, right? It's like it's just natural now. How is this going
That's
to
in
affect
it. Yeah. How'd you cook it? Yeah.
Yeah. How
What
am I going
sauce is here?
to exactly? So like that's why I talk about like my stress levels. That's a stress I can't avoid or get rid of anymore. So I have to eliminate it elsewhere.
Right. Trying to make up
And
for it.
yeah, and I ended up, it was so severe. I had to get surgery to remove my colon. So I don't have a colon, which is a pretty big part to have for the digestive system. I didn't know you could live without one.
Pretty important.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I live with. You know, inevitably I used to have an ostomy bag. So at some point my body's going to give out again. I'm going to have to get one, and living with an ostomy bag, while it's doable and people can do whatever they want with it, it's just something I'm not comfortable with, and I hate it and do not want to live with. But when that happens, like it'll happen. So it's just and of course not having a colon can lead to other issues with health. But yeah, that's just how like things have like really changed. Like that health issue changed everything. How I look at life, how I act, how I see other people, the decisions I'm like, everything. It's truly changed who I am as a person. You know, people see me now and say like I'm a cocky, egotistical guy, but I am. But before the health issues, it was through the roof. Like it was.
This is tame back 80%, huh?
Yes, exactly. It was obnoxious. So, so yeah, I mean, it's done a lot of good for me, for my, you know, just for my personality, for who I am as a person. It's made me a much better person, I think. But yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, and I can relate. My grandmother and a lot of the female side of my family, my aunt, you know, just died a couple of years ago, but all from colon issues. So I fully understand, at least to some degree, what it means to have some of those problems and
go get your colonoscopies, guys. Yeah. Even if you're young, I know it sounds weird and gross, but go do it.
Better safe than sorry. Yeah, for sure. Do you have to stick to any specific food groups, and what does it do to you in terms of eating?
I should. I'm not very good at this. I think food is literally, I think, the #1 addiction in the world, especially with it. It just seems it's like a hidden addiction. Food, staying strict to a diet is got to be the hardest thing in the world. I got
a story for you later. Yeah.
I want to eat as much pasta as I can and with as much Alfredo sauce as I can, but it destroys me. So now, like the food groups that I have to stick to are very different compared to everyone else. Like my diet is not healthy. It can't really be healthy. I can't really eat vegetables without being uncomfortable because of how gassy they make you. Like the pain that I have in it, like when you have gas in your small intestine, since I don't have a large intestine anymore, it's so painful, so uncomfortable. So like my diet is super plain, very gluten heavy. So a lot of like literally
rices, pastas.
Pastas. I'm supposed to eat white bread, not whole wheat bread.
Wow, it's the opposite.
So what's healthy for one person is not healthy for me. So it's unique in that way. But yeah, I definitely have to stay away from certain things because they just kind of will put me out of commission for a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. My grandmother, like, she struggles with anything that has seeds. She can't have the skins of tomatoes, so on and so forth. Like, she's got to be careful with all of that stuff.
Yeah, I can't eat popcorn.
She's so strict.
Like, popcorn will put me curled up in a ball for a day because it's so painful with the kernels.
But it's so good.
Yeah, dude, I love caramel popcorn. Like any candy popcorn, it's so good. But yeah, like any high fibrous, those seeds that you can't really digest, got to stay away from. I mean, I still have it in moderation, but yeah, gotta be careful with that stuff.
Well, we'll kind of keep it here. I think it's a nice sweet spot. We're talking on the personal side, as we mentioned in the beginning. born in '93. You know, you were hitting that early age there, right around the Pokemon. We mentioned two brothers already. But you made a comment, and it really stuck out to me one time, and it was your oldest brother. You felt was the coolest kid in the world to you. Of course, you may not feel it right now, but let's go back to childhood for a second here.
Yeah.
Bear with me. What was that like with you? Was he just the guy who did all the cool things and you wanted to be like him, or was there this deep bond that you guys had that
No, I mean, I think that's a
resonated?
pretty natural relationship that you have with older siblings. Do you have older siblings?
I don't.
You
Yeah.
don't. Yeah. So I as far as being a younger, I think it's natural for every younger sibling at some point in their life to see their older brother, older sister to be the coolest person in the world. You know, the group of friends that he had were so smart, so good at magic, so good at Pokemon, understood. They knew the cheat codes to every video game. You know, they made they just knew all this stuff to me that just seemed like you had to
Magic.
be some genius to know how to do this. And I mean, he introduced me to so many games like League of Legends and Warcraft and StarCraft and all this. I mean, obviously Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, Magic, like everything. And you know, I doubt he listens to this, but you know, as I grew up, I came to realize that he was a nerd. Like he had a small group of friends. They were not the cool kids. They did not get the girls. You know, they were the nerds. But you know, he truly, like leaned into it and loved it, and had great friendships with these guys, and still is friends with them to this day. And you know, that was a thing that I looked at when I started to get back into Pokemon and accept myself as a nerd. Before, I mean, it's cool now, but when I started,
Cool.
it was. I mean, it had evolved incredibly since childhood, but it was still, you know, weird. I mean, that was kind of inspirational to be like, hey, I can do this and be okay with it. And I don't need to be friends with the coolest kids in the world or whatever. I can pick my circle of people and enjoy life just as much as any other person. So yeah, I mean, as a kid, for sure, like, I mean, yeah, I talked about the cheating, like the missing number for Pokemon Red. One of his friends had a level 1000 Nidoking. It's the coolest thing in the world. So yeah, him and his group of friends were the coolest. And I mean, I hung around with them as much as I could. But they were great about it. I mean, obviously we just played card games together all the time and video games, so it was fine. It was pretty awesome. I mean, learning all the tricks to Super Smash and Star Fox 64 and 007,
I forgot about that one.
all that stuff, man. Like, I mean, now, so yeah, it was, as a kid, the coolest. As a teenager, the nerdiest, and then now, again, looking back at it, the coolest.
Right. Even more so than before.
Yeah, like these guys. I wish. I mean, my life has been great, and I love the friends that I have and the experience that I had back then too. But man, if I stuck with it, life would be a whole nother level than what it's at now. I mean, I remember my oldest brother. I remember the conversation at a Coney Island with my family. He was talking to us about this thing called the Facebook and how he was able to join it because he had his university email with the college he went to. Like, you had to be at a school to get it, and only certain schools had it at the time. So like, he knew about this stuff. I could have invested in Facebook early on if I thought about it or wasn't a child.
Don't kid yourself.
And then like one of his best friends growing up is a multi-millionaire off of Bitcoin because they knew about Bitcoin super early. Like, he was mining Bitcoin. Like, these were the type of kids that knew about this stuff that, again, if you were a nerd, you knew. Like, it
pays to be a nerd.
Yeah. If you do it right. I mean, my brother didn't do the Bitcoin thing. He knew about it, but yeah, it's cool to look back and see how that all like came to be and those little moments that I remember of like, oh, what if I bought Facebook stock when it first came out? All that stuff.
Retrospect, man. You
Yeah.
can't, doesn't work. Speaking of good moments, I saw one that really just made me smile, John. It reminded me so much of my childhood, not necessarily the cake, but just the toothless Michael jersey. It was just perfect. So you're sitting there on your birthday, just toothless, front two teeth are gone.
Yeah.
With a Michael Jordan jersey on, about to blow out candles on a Mewtwo cake.
Yeah.
And it just says so many things to me at that age. How old were you then?
Oh gosh. That had to be like 6 or 7. Right?
Okay.
No, well, if it was maybe 7 or 8, a little bit later, because it was a Mewtwo cake.
Yeah.
So 99. Yeah. Had to be probably 6, 7, or 8. One of those 3.
Yeah. 2000, something like that.
Yeah.
Because it says to me, loving family, supporting your hobbies, diverse, interests and views, joy and great memories. That's what that one picture says to me, of course, in 1,000 other things. But
yeah.
What was it like for you growing up? I mean, I feel like your brothers were always there, kind of hanging out, you bonded really well.
Yeah.
Mom and dad too?
Yeah. Both parents. Yep. They're still kicking. They visited me recently, actually, out here. So that was nice to see them. But I wish I remembered anything from that moment, from that picture, from that birthday. I don't remember a thing. It's I had a great family growing up. Obviously we all have our qualms and issues with our parents and siblings at points in our life, but really had a amazing, blessed life. I mean, my dad sacrificed everything to give his family a good life. Like I was just talking about this the other day with somebody, how like the financial crisis in 08, 09 impacted them. And I was like, yeah, as a kid, I didn't know anything about it until later I asked my dad about it and how hard of a time it was for them. But he did such a great job both parents did such a great job of, keeping those things at bay and keeping us, protected and all that. And it was, my parents did a lot. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, worked odd jobs here and there, but my dad was classic typical provider.
I think he was a financial advisor, right?
An accountant, an accountant. And I mean, he could have went the route where he went and worked for big firms and made a lot more money, but worked 100 hours a week and never saw us. But he chose to work at a small dental company as the accountant there. And so he could go to all of our basketball games and be there for us after school and watch us grow up. So and I also, later in life learned about his like entrepreneurial ventures of buying property and renting out for, his dad owned a liquor store in Detroit his whole life. Okay. So my dad had bought a building and rented it out as for a liquor store, like a corner store. That ended up he ended up dropping all that because it was too risky, and he just took the safe route and sacrificed so much of, I guess, his dreams, his visions of life to have a family of 4. I don't know how I can't imagine supporting a family with 4 kids. We went on our yearly trip, whether it was up North Michigan, it was out we went to South Carolina to what's the island out there? Why am I drawing a blank? What's the island in South Carolina? Not Mercer, but Hilton Head. We'd go to Hilton Head once a year. At Disney, I think once or twice in my lifetime before my adulthood. But yeah, they sacrificed a lot to give us a good life, and we lived in the same place. I think, pretty much my whole life. They still live in the same childhood house.
Really?
That's awesome. That's rare. I know a lot of parents sell and move immediately once the kids are out. But again, like that's my dad. Like he is so conservative with his money. Like didn't make much of it. but paid off the house. He had his goal to pay off a house by 40 and did so, and set himself up properly for retirement and everything. So on the side, he was a coin collector and nothing crazy. He was just like going through pennies and finding wheat pennies and doing little things like that. So that's kind of where I got my collecting bug from, was from him. And then yeah, my brothers and younger sister, like, we obviously fought a lot being siblings, but did pretty well becoming friends with everyone's friends groups. And, we all are pretty close at this point. Growing up, I'm the only one that have moved away. Everybody still lives close to home.
Okay.
But family's growing, nieces, nephews, all that I miss out on, but get to see every now and then. Yeah, it was a lot of sports. It was a lot of basketball, golf, baseball for a little bit, but it was a very basic, I guess lower middle class family that grew up in a safe neighborhood, and we got to experience those little trips, and
good childhood.
Yeah, good childhood. Got our Pokemon cards for our birthdays and Christmases. Yeah, it was a good childhood.
I love hearing those stories, and I did grow up with two sisters, but they weren't by blood. We just lived in the same house. There was a time where we were struggling, and we essentially partnered up with another family. So we stayed there, and so I lived with them for, I want to say 7 years is what comes to mind. So we are closer. They had a real brother by blood, and so we're actually closer than what at the time the real brother was. So
wow.
But no siblings growing up. So yeah, in terms of older siblings,
that's an interesting dynamic.
It was, and it was all females for me. It was a house of females.
Yeah.
So I was the only male.
Wow.
It was interesting. Yeah. Luckily, it was a couple of Tom girls, so we were out there playing sports and horseshoes in the backyard and all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah.
So,
are you stuck in a house of all females again, or you have a son? Or
yeah, 2 boys.
2 boys.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, 2 boys, Ethan and Elliot. So no, my wife's the one going crazy here. So she's the one stuck in the house of all boys, and she's like, I can't believe it. They're being too rough. I said, no, they're good. They're good. I'm good.
That's awesome.
If they get hurt, it's all right. They'll be okay. Are you sure? Like, yeah, I'm sure. That's when Dad goes in the pool and picks him up and slams him down, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of, I saw you with your nephew, I think in Hawaii or something like that, right? And you're sitting on the floor and you're holding them, and
that was in Michigan. Yeah.
Oh, was it Michigan? Okay.
Yeah.
And you made a comment something like investing in some bonds or something for the little one, or I forget the statement that you made.
I know early on, like when
financial investment.
I haven't done this for the last niece or nephew, but for the first 2 nephews, I gave them a Pokemon card, or I guess the parents a Pokemon card when they were born. One brother kept it. The other brother sold it already, but he did very well on it. And supposedly it went to his college fund. I think it went to the kitchen fund, but
we'll see. We'll see when the college comes.
Yeah, but I try to give them. I mean, obviously, I'm going to be the Pokemon uncle, so I give them Pokemon stuff every time I see them, whether it's a plushie or they're finally getting to the age, or one of them's getting to the age that he could open cards and stuff. He doesn't fully understand it yet. He's 5. But yeah, I'm going to be the Pokemon uncle.
I was joking with Ivy on the last podcast, not joking in this case, but we were paying neighborhood kids to wash the car and paying them like Pokemon product.
Yeah.
Here's you a Pokeball. Here's you a Pokeball. Great job. They loved it. They had a blast.
Awesome. That's
they
smart.
came back the next day and said, hey, can we do any more chores for you? Slow down. Can't burn through all my steel product.
I don't have that many Pokemon cards. That's smart. Yeah. You should get a distributor, and then it's cheaper. And
exactly.
Yeah, I know. Like, there's a lot of our friends have their businesses set up, and once their kids hit a certain age, can hire them for their businesses and do all that. So
exactly,
having them rip open and organize cards and stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's a good tax write-off, and they can make a decent amount of money without having to pay taxes. I think it's like 21,000 this year.
Is that what it's up to now? Gosh,
it was 14, I think. Now I think it's like 21.
Wow,
something like that. Yeah, so
what
you
a
can pay
deal!
Yeah, you can pay them without paying taxes.
Yeah, that's
up
pretty
to that
awesome.
point. Yeah. They're not there yet. You have to be a little bit older. So
What
unfortunately,
is it 7? No.
I don't know. But when I first looked into it, I know mine were just a little too young.
Yeah.
I don't know what the age is. Yeah, I'd guess if I was going to take one.
Yeah.
Speaking of, John, are you gonna plan a family of your own one day?
I'd love to. I'm not married, but I am in a relationship. But so maybe one day. I can see it going either way. I'm terrified to have a kid and give him, and because I think this is my health issues could be passed along. So I'm terrified for that to happen. But yeah, I can see it going either way. I'd be happy without kids. I'd be happy with kids. Having little radars running around would be fun. But yeah, again, going back to stress, that seems like something that I might struggle handling. So,
you're 31.
Yeah,
you still got a little time.
I got a little bit of time. So I'd love to have a family. I think it would be cool to be a dad.
I think you would love it.
Yeah, yeah. So it's definitely in the books for me. It's something that I would want, but again, I could live happily without it too. I've got all the nieces and nephews in the world now that right. can fill that void, and I don't have to change any diapers. So.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun though, man. I think I could see the fatherly figure in you just slowly getting ready.
Yeah. Maybe we'll start with a dog. I'd like to get a dog. See if I can handle that first.
Yeah, that's with the travel. You better rely on your girlfriend or Beyonce, whichever it is.
Yeah, that's the thing. I guess that's the first thing to figure out: how to stop traveling with work. I want to stay home. I don't want to go anywhere anymore. I sound like such a snot, but I love staying home. I've been able to travel a lot and I'm very happy about it, and I'm going to continue traveling. But I need to slow it down. I'm going to Alaska next week. That'll be fun.
Oof. Wow.
Go see some glaciers. Yeah.
Okay. As long as it's for fun. Yeah, if you had to go to Alaska for work.
I don't think there's any work to do in Alaska. But
TikTok's getting into fishing. I'm not sure. Yeah, we'll see.
Do some fishing creators. I don't know if there's any Pokemon collectors out there.
Well, John, man, this has been awesome. Really enjoyed this conversation. It's I think been one of my favorites so far. So it's been a complete joy being with you, man. We typically wrap it up with a couple of questions, if you don't mind. So we'll just a few more minutes and we'll bring it to a graceful close. One of those questions usually is very targeted at the person, not in a bad way, but like what, just so we can release the anxiety right up front here.
Who do you think you are?
Yeah. Now that I've got you here. No. It's really what I think brings the best from each guest and what they really, I would say, bring to the table in terms of the peak skill, the peak challenge they've overcome in life, and they can share that experience with the audience. And there's been a lot for you, and so it's been hard to kind of find what that one I thought would be. But you're someone who's leveraged, in my opinion, the fullest of relationships, and we've talked about it a few times here today, and that's truly changed the trajectory of your life in probably more ways than you can imagine, and still to come, of course. But so many of us are shy. We're homebodies. We struggle to even go out and connect, and sometimes we're glad we do it after it's done, but just getting out there and making that connection and keeping it going. But then most importantly, and I think I heard Squeak say this once, you leverage it in such a way, not in a bad way. You're not using the people, but you leverage your relationships to the benefit of both parties as well. So can you speak to the importance of building those connections, and how could one go about it slowly but somewhat steadily to make sure that they don't become that hermit crab at home? miss out on some great opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, first and foremost, it's something that the relationship side of things is I've always been it's always been something I enjoy doing and that
Mm.
I've been good at. So I was sure to lean into that. If your skill set is somewhere else and you're at a point where you're trying to grow, lean into your strength. Don't worry about strengthening the relationship side of thing if you're good at
Mm.
whatever else. Like it depends on what moment of time you're at, but like for me, I think if you're in a growth period or just the starting phase, lean into what you're good at and don't worry about the other parts, as it will come eventually, as long as you put the time in. Um, but if you're at that point where you're trying to expand and do something that you're less comfortable with and
Right.
need to add, it really comes down to the finding the passionate side of things with the other person, and like you said, benefiting the other person. A lot of people will tell you or look at relationship building as potentially sleazy, where you're trying to get something for yourself and be selfish.
Right.
So you have to approach it in a way that's as selfless as possible and as transparent as possible. I've always been very open and transparent about what I
Yep.
am getting at with people. It's burned me countless numbers of times by being too transparent and too open, but it's outweighed the opportunities of success out of being that way has outweighed the times I've been burned. So I think going into it and first starting out is you gotta be open and transparent with the other person and
Mm.
be willing and understanding that you might get burned. You have to be
Right.
okay with that. It's painful. It creates trust issues. It's tough to go through, but the more you do it, the more things will come back to you. And like if you are truly going into these relationships, these opportunities with the intentions to better the other person, it, and obviously if it works out, it'll come back and pay in dividends. I mean, I've talked about it before, but my relationship with Pokey Rev, with Cool Trainer Ryan, with some of these other guys, when I first started, I brought deals to the table. This is before content was a thing. It was all about buying collections and making money off of stuff. I brought deals to the table to people, did not worry about making any money. I just would find big deals. I would get the piece of it that I could afford, that I wanted.
Right.
I was not greedy. And I gave the opportunity to others to buy in on it at the same cost. And I put in the work to get that done. And it created trust. It created friendship. And when you meet the right people who are like-minded and business-minded, that understand that relationships can lead to benefits for the both of you, those are the right people to circle yourself with, to build a circle around with. Those people that just are in it for themselves, it's very easy to tell how greedy they're being, how selfish they're being. And if that comment is ever made of like, oh, you're only doing this to get this for yourself or get that for yourself, there's clearly some sort of insecurity there or misjudgment on their part. You have to go into these things truly trying to benefit the other person. Don't do anything stupid where you're losing money yourself or putting yourself in a bad position. Like, don't do that. But make sure if you set up an opportunity for somebody, it truly helps them out, helps you out. Everybody wins. I know that's a cliche, but you have to approach these things genuinely. You have to approach these things selflessly, and you got to be smart. You can't just like come in with something basic and it's got to be a unique opportunity for everybody that is truly awesome. So
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if there was a
Well
lot of
said. No, that
rambling.
was good. That was good. And I spoke to my wife about this recently. We were talking about work and other things, and on her side. And sometimes we get so caught up, and especially in the corporate world, about the company and decisions that are made, and things that could or could not be better, or things perhaps that we don't fully understand. And there's frustration, right? When expectation doesn't meet reality, we get frustrated. And so the conversation I have with my wife, really revolved around one statement, and that is, if you simply just ask yourself, how can I be of service today? If you can just ask yourself that question and do it, using your words here, John, genuinely, honestly, and try to help whoever it is you come into contact with. Yeah, sure. Some people will take advantage of you. But the moment that you're gone, they either do it to somebody else or they fall. And that doesn't last long. But you'll go a lot further if you just remember, how can I be of service today? And that takes you well places.
That's the statement.
Yeah.
Being of service. And I mean, doing the corporate world, it's a great way to stand out. I have never met so many greedy people who are in it for themselves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And look, those people, from the looks of it, are getting so far ahead than others, and they will.
I've seen it. Yep.
But an easy way to stand out is to be that person to help them get somewhere else. And not, maybe 1 out of 10 of those people that you helped that got promoted somewhere, that went somewhere else, they'll remember that, and they might give you that next opportunity. That's a step up. So and let me tell you, it is frustrating to be that guy. I
was waiting for it. I knew it was coming.
It is so tough to stick with it, and definitely slip up every now and then where I have my moments of greed and selfishness. But if you want to be the guy to stand out at your job or in this community or wherever, I mean, do something for everyone else, for someone else. And it could take you a very long way. I mean, this charity stuff I'm doing, not making a dime. I'm actually losing money a little bit on like shipping and stuff. I'm okay with it because it feels good. And it's not that much, but it's a relationship that I value greatly. And it's a relationship that I know can take me to many other places, but you're doing a great thing. And at the cost of shipping a box every now and then, totally worth it for me.
Small price to pay. And how many are you helping? Back to the point we were making here. How much service is that given to the community that's going to get the educational facilities or the people, the resources? You have no idea. You probably never know, but it's more than you can probably ever guess.
Yeah.
Beautiful, John. Beautiful. I won't dig on that corporate world frustrations. Yeah, I know them all too well. So we'll round it off with this one, my friend. One day we're all going to end up leaving this hobby one way or another. What legacy do you hope to leave in the hobby when you're gone, John?
Oof. I want to come in with something nice and happy, but I mean, we're small fish. We're not going to last long after this. This hobby is fantastic. It is great. I guess the legacy that I would want to leave, for as short as it'll live, I want to be able to have helped as many people as possible, setting them up with whether it's their dream job or connecting them to an opportunity that leads to any life-changing moment. I mean, again, with the relationships that I have been able to build, I have been able to connect people to do great things. And whether or not I have been a part of that great thing or will be a part of that great thing, I've been able to make that connection happen. So I'd like to be known for building those great relationships and having them lead to them building even more amazing products or more amazing opportunities for people. So I think I've gotten there. I think there's still a long way to go, but the more that I can connect people to change their lives, the better.
Right. As I always say, we try to leave it better than we found it.
Yeah.
What more can you ask for, man?
Yeah.
Well, John, as I said, it's been such a fun conversation. Thoroughly enjoyed it. For everybody who's hung around, we've had quite a number of people here from the beginning to now. Truly appreciate all your time too. You're here every time, and it's greatly appreciated as well. Something we don't get back, as we all know, and I'm deeply and gratefully happy that you're here. So if you don't know, John's links are below. Make sure you check them out in the description. YouTube, Instagram, eBay, all that kind of fun stuff. Watch out for the podcast coming back real soon. Do we have a date, John?
No date, but
No date.
I'll announce it once it's up and going.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, we look forward to it, John. And as always, we wish everybody a great day. Look forward to seeing you on the next Rants, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you.